Good morning. It's a beautiful day or in the neighborhood, or at least it is in my neighborhood. Oh my goodness. I apologize for being late. Um you all don't know me in person, but I absolutely hate being late. I hate being late to things. I hate keeping people waiting. So I apologize for keeping you waiting if you were waiting. Um, I have us staring at the live court feed at the moment because it appears that they have not opened the court yet. And they usually they start things up in the morning by gathering everybody in the courtroom and saying this is what we're going to do, and they haven't done that yet. So and it's probably just disorganization and confusion and stuff we'll never know, but they haven't done those things yet. Good morning, Kathy and Lil Red, and I don't know if Gina and Unseen and Caroline are still in here, but hello to you too. And to those of you coming in, please remember to hit the thumbs up. Hey, Janessa, good to see you on live. So last night I really wanted to check out different opinions on this. This is a hello, good morning, Jay Friday. This is a really polarizing case, right? I mean, it's unprecedented. This is the kind of case that could set future precedent for case law, right? And good morning. Oh, okay, the Young Thug trial, man, that thing is droning on and on. Is there anything exciting going on with it, Marie? Because I honestly haven't really watched it at any length for a bit because it just seems like every time I tune in, they're not really doing a trial. They're just doing some sort of procedural issue. And yeah. Oh, yay. I'm just sitting here drinking my coffee and trying to get caught up. So, I noticed that I put up, I showed you guys a couple polls that people put up at the end of the day yesterday. And as you can see, people are really divided. Now, for the most part, people are saying guilty, that weighs out. But polls are biased. You can't go by polls. You should go by a number of polls if you're going to go by, any, and then kind of go by a cross section. Oh, it's been interesting. I'll have to check it out. I've been just more interested in this. But anyway, it's been really divided. So, I've been kind of trying to understand, the different perspectives, and the issue really here is, there just doesn't seem to be definitive statutes or laws to, charge against. And that's part of the issue, and that's why it's so confusing, I think, for juries, is because, and honestly, I found one news report that I thought that had a legal analyst come on that I thought was really helpful for me to understand. And it didn't seem to try to take one side or the other. It just kind of explained things, this legal analyst. And I want to show it to you because I thought it was just helpful for me to try to get a more of a legal basis of understanding. I have my just kind of jury of public opinion understanding, right? But we have to remember that this is taking place in a court of law. And this is where sometimes laws are changed because, you know, how what we're seeing is the process of laws being created or not created. You see what I'm saying? Case law is a big part of lawmaking. And, you know, it's not just a bunch of legislators, you know, sitting around making laws. The court system is a big part of making our laws, and it's based on court precedent. And I think what like Marie and Janessa are saying here are true, you know, of what a lot of people feel. And I can't necessarily dispute it, is a lot of people don't feel that the prosecution has met their burden of proof and that the state has not proven their case. And one of the key elements of that is, you know, the state is saying there's basically two theories of the prosecution, and that is, you know, gross neglect, and their key issue in that gross neglect is that they didn't secure the gun. But one analyst I was watching was saying, you know, they haven't really proven that the gun was unlocked. It seemed as though he did have to go searching around the house, you know, for the key to the lock and whatnot. So if the state had better proof that the gun was actually unlocked and sitting out, there would be more of a case for neglect and gross neglect, right? And you know, I can't dispute that. And while the facts of the case may be terrible and bad, and they may be bad, terrible parents, and the prosecution is putting on a great case for, you know, bad parents, bad parenting, they may not have met their burden. And I'm not married to one side or the other, but it's possible that the state may not have met their burden, and that's probably what the jury is struggling over. And I don't blame them. You know, this is a really, really hard case to, you know, they're probably have a lot of weight on their shoulders right now because they know that this is a precedent making case, and that, you know, they can't just sit there and say, well, we don't like the way this mom acted. We don't like that she had an affair. We don't like that she paid more attention to her horses and blah, blah, blah. And so we're going to find her guilty. That you can't find her guilty of involuntary manslaughter on those things. Right. So, wait, let me, anyway. You know, it's weird. I'm missing a chat about that. I think I'm on the StreamYard side, and it's almost looking like I'm missing what some chatters are saying because people are talking about, oh, I see. Wait, hold on. Anyway, I'm sorry. It's just sometimes I can't like do my rap and follow the chat conversation and have a intelligent conversation on both sides of those things. Anyway, so good morning, Shift. So I want to show you this while we're still, it doesn't look like anything's going on there. I'm going to show you this one news report that was helpful to me. Good morning, Laura. Good morning, or anybody else who's coming in. Let me show you. Yeah, and I have up until, I watched some of the legal analysis, have felt that the case met their burden. Now, Ben Chu, Ben Chu, um, he's the he's the Johnny Depp's attorney in that case. Now, but that was a civil case. He made some good points too, and he feels that the state has met their burden. So I thought that was interesting. So people that have a much more professional expert view on these things have divided opinions. Um, oh, I do have the link. Hold on one moment. I will put it in the chat. It should work for your iPad, hopefully. Sometimes there are issues. I don't have, specifically the iPhone link, which is also the same as the iPad link. So hopefully it'll work. If that doesn't work, you can go to the join button on the channel. So there is the membership link for anyone who wants to consider joining. I hope it works for people on mobile devices. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. Let me grab this analysis I wanted to show you. One moment. Okay. Watch this and let me know what you think about this. Oh, yay, you're a new member. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Okay. Here we go.
About who gave him the gun and why did he have it? Because there's two theories of liability here. One is that it wasn't safely stored and it was given access to him. And just as a side note, Lindsay, it wasn't until this year in 2024 that Michigan has laws requiring that firearms be locked up. So that's number two. The other claim is the other charge.
So did you hear that? Michigan does have laws requiring that firearms be locked up, but the laws were not in place in 2021 when this happened. Okay. So that's a tough spot for the jury to be in.
Is that it was reasonably foreseeable that he was going to commit this crime and that the mother should have intervened. So the jury, it looks like, is weighing the evidence very, very carefully. That is trying to determine whether the government has proven causation, that she caused the deaths rather than some other cause of either giving him access or allowing him to have access to the guns, or his mental health that actually produced this outcome.
To me, the most causal action that the parents took was going out and buying him that gun as a gift. As a 15-year-old, he had no business owning a gun, and especially if they weren't really aware of what he was going through emotionally. If they had not been paying attention to his emotional well-being, right? So to me, that is the most causal. So that's a question. When a parent buys a minor a gun, right? Knowing without having a good idea of their mental condition, right? The only thing that piece of equipment is made for is to kill somebody. And you have to be responsible for it. And the person owning that thing really should, especially if they're a kid, be well balanced. Shouldn't be drawing pictures saying help me, right? And and it's not like, and they went out and bought him this gun, not very long before the shooting, and took him to the range not too long before the shooting. So it is just really hard to determine where is the responsibility. To me, it seems that is going too far, because you're the parent, they're the kid, you bought the gun and gave it to him, you put it in his hand, and then he went and shot people. It's really hard.
What could she have intervened and stopped it?
And let's look at what we know about this jury. Evenly split between men and women, including parents and gun owners. Can you read anything from that?
I think it's really interesting because men and women, parents and gun owners, I mean, these people are going to be really weighing whether the parents, not just, of course, she's the only one on this trial, but whether parents should be responsible for this kind of gun violence that we're seeing across the country. And there's no telling with this makeup of the jury how they will come out. Now, the judge has charged the jury. They have to be unanimous that she's guilty of manslaughter, but not on the theory. So it's possible that some jurors would think she should have prevented him from having access. Other jurors could have thought that it was reasonably foreseeable he was going to do something like this.
So that's the two things is, should she have presented access? Could she have foreseen this? And the could she have foreseen this? I think the main argument against that is that nobody could have foreseen this, but we actually are starting to see patterns, patterns of behavior where, kids, you can note the signs of a kid who's in distress, and he was clearly in distress. And especially when they're drawing a gun on a piece of paper and saying, "Help me." Right? I mean, that is just a recipe. He was literally saying, "Help me," on a piece of paper where he drew a gun. And there are all kinds of other facts that I think weren't brought in that would kind of corroborate that. So, could she have foreseen it? Again, you could just whitewash that and say nobody could have foreseen something so heinous as this. Of course, but we know now that there's a pattern of kids in emotional distress, isolating, acting, in strange ways, seeing things, blah, 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 blah. And then you give him a gun and he's a kid, and then you don't secure it. And it legitimately was not secured if he was able to get to it so easily. We don't know exactly how. And that's one of the issues that that they should have maybe teased out a little bit more. And we talked about this yesterday, was exactly how did he get that damn gun? Like exactly. And I'm talking about not at the gun store, but in the morning, specifically, how did he get it? But that's not, that was not specifically presented in court, so the jury can't consider that. So let me see if there's more that this legal analyst says.
Given the evidence that he was in some kind of mental distress, they don't have to all agree on the theory, but they do all have to all agree essentially on the blame that she caused these four deaths.
The shooter's father, James Crumbley, faces similar charges and goes to trial next month. How will this verdict potentially influence that case?
Well, given how the jury is responding to these charges, and of course, we'll have to see what the actual verdict is, it could tailor the government's case.
Can I just note something a little off base here? Look how pissed off Jennifer Crumbley looks in that picture. She looks pissed. She looks, I do not belong here in that mugshot. Here's another thing that I didn't know until I watched some other analysis yesterday, is that, we talked about what previous charges Jennifer may have had. Her previous charges were check fraud along with James and other types of, fraud and perjury and things like that. So it's not as if she's always been a straight shooter, but as we've discussed, other people have noted, those prior acts do not get folded into whether, she is guilty or not guilty, right? See if there's anything more interesting said.
Case that is, it might put some pressure on the government to have more information or evidence relating to the chain of custody with the gun and why the boy had the gun and how he got the gun and whether the parents took steps to actually train him on the gun and prevent him from having access to the gun. All of those things, if she's acquitted, I think are going to be on the hot seat in the next trial.
All right, Kim Whaley, thank you so much.
I mean, that was a kind of a helpful analysis to me. And, here's another thing. And I noticed that, Spicy Lady says, I bought my son a rifle for deer hunting. I think he was 16 at the time, but my son is very stable, been through gun safety classes and was in shooting sports. Right. So sometimes I like to bring in the car and the driver's license analogy, right? I don't quite understand. I don't quite understand why we have to go through an entire, government sanctioned process of getting a driver's license for a car, and we can't legally drive on our own till we're 16 or even 18 in some states, right? Driving on our own. But there are lesser standards and lesser thresholds for kids to operate and own guns. And guns are meant to be a deadly weapon. Vehicles are meant as a means of transportation, right? And if you include the analogy of, let's say that your child has a drinking problem and you hand them the keys to the car, right? To me, that's kind of the same as giving somebody with mental distress a gun. I mean, again, people's judgments are impaired when they drink. When people are in mental distress or they might suffer from mental illness, their judgment is impaired. And those things need to be evaluated before they handle a deadly weapon. Or at least the parent should be well aware of what the mental state of their kid before they hand them a deadly weapon. So, I just, it will just be extremely interesting. If nothing else, I hope that this trial brings awareness to parents of how easy it can be for their child. Like it kind of brings all of this to light. A parent like Jennifer might be looking at this and saying, gosh, I wouldn't have done any more than Jennifer did, and maybe I should do more than Jennifer did, right? Now let's see if there's nothing going on in the court. There's nothing going on in the court. I'm going to do a little bit of a Twitter search real quickly here. No, just a bunch of people, acting like they're eating popcorn and stuff like that. So I think maybe I will go to the tab of where we left off yesterday with Jennifer's testimony. There's nothing going on in the court. I will be actively monitoring the court as we watch Jennifer continue to testify. Yeah, that's, you bring up a serious issue right there, Marie. I've been fighting mental health since I was 15, but I hide it from my parents. I watched a really good analysis from, I don't know if you all have heard of Dr. Todd Grande, okay? I've been subscribed to him since he had just thousands of viewers now, or of subscribers. Now he has something like 1.5 million subscribers, and I think he's earned them because he is an actual professional. He's an actual, doctor. he gives very interesting, sometimes funny and deadpan analysis of things, of different cases, and the people in the cases. And he says he said something really insightful in the video I watched about this. He does an analysis of this, and I think, I think people would learn from watching it. He does not feel that the state met their burden yet because for him, it's more about the school and about the laws that are in place. So, and that's his opinion. Of course, he's not a lawyer, right? He's a doctor. So, but I value his opinion because he is a professional. But he said that a lot of mental illness generates behavior that is meant to hide that mental illness, right? So take addiction as just a real superficial example of mental illness, because addiction does become like a mental illness. Okay. You're always going to want to hide your addiction from people. So you start to generate behaviors, that are meant to hide that addiction. Same with mental illness. And so I can understand what Marie is saying here. And so that is why it's all the more important for parents to understand what it looks like. And even if they suspect that maybe their kid is going through some sort of mental distress and maybe hiding a mental illness or an addiction, it's time to get a professional involved, because parents are not equipped, unless they're trained themselves, they're not equipped to diagnose it and treat it, right? Oh, thank you for joining, LED. Yeah, we'll see, Chopper. I do plan to cover that when it starts, the Adam Montgomery trial, when it starts opening arguments. So with that, let me just check one more time. Is there anything going on in the court? There's nothing going on in the court. So let's keep going with her testimony. We're toward the end of her direct examination from her own lawyer. So they're getting toward the end of, going through all the pictures from her Facebook. And, I think the lawyer is trying to prep the jury for the toughest questions that they feel are going to be coming out from the prosecution. Honestly, the cross-examination is very, very good, and it's very, very interesting. And you see the prosecution is able to impeach her on the stand, meaning show that she has lied, in the case of this trial. So, one moment, please. Okay. Please remember to hit the thumbs up if you haven't already. Thank you very much.
Last minute hotel deals.
Do you agree these are your searches?
Yeah, I'm always on Priceline.
Okay.
I'm always on Priceline.
Ultimately, on the night of your plans for 4/4 to 4/5.
To be in Auburn Hills, extended stay.
Okay. What is Priceline?
It's an app where you can get last minute hotel deals.
Do you agree these are your searches?
Yeah, I'm always on Priceline.
Okay. Ultimately, on the night of the 3rd, were you aware on Friday afternoon if you could go into court that afternoon?
I forgot. I loaded up some new little sounds, new little payoffs for when I get a super chat or or a new member. So they're just very specific to the court. So here's here's my thank you for the 2 people who have joined this morning.
Alfred!
Okay. Just funny court moments. We'll keep seeing those.
Afternoon. What was your awareness?
I was not aware that we could go into court that afternoon. I was just waiting on direction from you to what we're going to do the following day and turning ourselves in.
All right. So the prosecution showed lots of pictures of the art studio. We agree. That's what it looks like, right?
Right.
Okay. Did you guys sleep on that mattress that night?
Yeah, we did. It was actually in the hallway, a common hallway the business shared, and we pulled it into the art studio and slept on it that night.
Okay. Did you, the prosecution showed receipts and supplies that were bought, things like that. Who went to the store and did that?
My friend went to the store. We gave him a list and he picked up things for us.
Okay. Why didn't you go to the police department? This is so distracting. I'm having a really hard time. I can move maybe and ask. Okay.
Her attorney just does not seem used to working with other people because everything other people do distracts her.
So who bought those supplies?
My friend did.
Okay. Why didn't you and James just go on your own to the police department and turn yourselves in?
Because we didn't feel it'd be safe.
Okay. Why is that?
Just the fact that the entire community and Michigan knew that we were expected to turn ourselves in at the police department, so they would know where to go.
Okay. And so that night, what did you and James sleep there?
We did.
What time did you go to bed? What happened? Just really quickly.
I want to say it was after 11, maybe around 11 o'clock, and we finally went to bed. We both, I'm prescribed Xanax for anxiety, and we each took 4 because we knew we were going to be turning ourselves in the next day, and we hadn't slept in 4 days, and we just wanted to sleep.
Okay. So you each took 4.
We did.
Okay.
Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. 4 Xanax. We talked about this the other day. That's a heavy load, man. I've never taken Xanax, but that means they had a pretty damn high tolerance for Xanax. Okay.
And so the next thing, the next piece of evidence we saw was them coming into that art studio. Do you recall that?
I recall my husband screaming, and there was people with guns again in our face, officers.
What were you doing prior to hearing your husband screaming?
We were sleeping.
Okay. Were you aware there was anything going on?
No, it was not.
Okay. We saw the video, so we don't need to go through all of that. And the prosecution admitted, I'm going to put it up on the screen, People's Exhibit 150, and I just want to verify with you. I'm sorry, can you turn it on actually? Okay, do you see it on your screen?
I do.
Okay, what is that?
That's an alarm we set for, or I set for the next morning,
For Saturday
for
morning?
Saturday morning, correct?
Okay, do you recall why you set it for 6:30, 6:45? Is there 2 alarms or 1?
Yeah, there's 2.
Okay, why did you set those alarms?
Because we were going to wake up and drive to the Novi courthouse and meet you there by 8:30.
Okay, and what was your plan there? What was going to be your plan when you got to Novi?
We were going to be arraigned.
Okay, now, there was
Everything's still
evidence,
up.
oh, whoops. There was evidence that your purse and belongings were found in totes there. Do you remember seeing all those pictures?
I do.
Okay, tell the jury why those were your purse and personal effects were in those bins.
I didn't know if we were going to jail. I didn't know if we were going to be bonded out. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I had told my friend where I left my purse and my backpack, where I did have pretty much all my money in it, to grab those the next day, or when he's at the studio. He's not usually there on the weekend. So I put them in the totes just for extra caution.
In some of the messages the prosecution admitted, you say that you failed as a parent. Are you a failure as a parent?
I don't think I'm a failure as a parent, but at that time, I guess I felt bad that Ethan was sad at those things. And I guess I don't know. I just felt like I failed somewhere. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just that point in time, I just kind of felt like somewhere I failed.
Do you believe there was anything, do you believe that you knew or had reason to know your son was a danger to anyone else?
No. As a parent, you spend your whole life trying to protect your child from other dangers. You never would think you have to protect your child from harming somebody else.
That's a mistake. When you're only thinking of raising your child such that they could only be the victim of somebody else, not that they might victimize other people. Okay? When you say things like "don't get caught," right? When you overlook things, when you say things like "I'm not mad at you, but blah 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 blah," when you just kind of, let things roll and let them do whatever they want, and only get mad when things start to come down on you, right?
That's what blew my mind. That was the hardest thing I had to stomach, is that my child harmed and killed other people.
Do you believe there were things you were thinking at the time, I should do this, but I'm not doing it? Do you look back and think that?
No, I don't. I mean, of course I look back after this all happened, and I've asked myself if I would have done anything differently, and I wouldn't have.
If you could.
Now, she just said she wouldn't have done anything differently. Is that illegal? No, it's not illegal for her to say that she wouldn't have done anything differently. But it was dumb, and it was insensitive, and it was revealing of her state of mind, right? Her state of mind is, I'm not going to admit that I did anything wrong, or that I did, I wouldn't do anything differently. I'm sorry, but when all these facts come out and pile on, I probably would be sitting there going, I would have done things differently. I've decided I would have done things differently for much lesser offenses here on YouTube. I've done things on YouTube that I wouldn't do now. We're supposed to learn and grow as human beings, right? And so it was just not a good look. Does that make her guilty of the actual charges in a legal sense? I don't know. I don't know.
Change what happened, would you?
Oh, absolutely. I wish he would have killed us instead.
And that also was a mistake piled onto a mistake. Yep, for example, using your I have never, thank goodness, used my real name, my full real name on YouTube or anywhere online. It still got out there, not by me, but I haven't used it. But that is one thing. For anybody who's listening to this and not chatting or whatever, if you ever start to decide chatting and engaging on YouTube, do not use your real name. Do not use your full name. There are just so many creeps out here on the internet that if you just make them mad with one little opinion or one, they get slighted by something you say, they could start looking you up and going after your, don't say that. Don't say that, dear. I'm going to, they it's not just about, are they going to come after you? What people do is go after your family. People on the internet act like mobsters sometimes. And they know that the best way to hurt you is to go after the people around you. So you on the internet, it's not just thinking about yourself. It's also thinking about your children, your parents, your sisters, your brothers, your friends, other people's lives that they might be able to connect to you, that they might invade. So
over the last 26 months, has this been stressful for you?
It's been very stressful. Yes.
Have you had
and she gets almost the most emotional when she starts talking about the effect on her. The effect on her. It's been very stressful. I wish he would have just killed us, making her seem like some sort of martyr or victim. And again, is that illegal? No, it's not illegal. Is it a bad look in front of the parents that are sitting there who have no children because of her son? No, it's not a good look.
a range of emotions?
I've had a lot of emotions.
Are you trying to, do you believe you are the victim here?
I don't want to say that I'm a victim because I do not want to disrespect those families that truly are the victims on this. But we did lose a lot.
Yeah, that is the confusing thing, Teresa. YouTube is connected to your Google account, which is many people's email, which does tend to be many people's names. So you can change your name on your YouTube channel to where it's not the same as your email. And it would take a very enterprising person to figure out what the, actual email address is connected to that name. But you can also create a new Gmail account to start a new YouTube account so that there's no connection between your name. And if you use your real name on YouTube and then also use the same real name on your other social media accounts like Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok, that's where it gets dicey, because that's where people start to go into other social media accounts and dig up all kinds of things that they want to use against you. And it's nuts.
Okay. You've lost everything.
We did.
Again, she's sitting there in front of the families of the victims, okay? And she's saying that she lost everything. She hasn't lost everything. She has her life. James has her life. And her son has his life. And her son is still alive. And those other parents' sons and daughters are not alive. So it is really insensitive and not reading the room to sit there and say that you lost everything in front of the people whose children are dead. So you may not be guilty of involuntary manslaughter, but you are certainly guilty of being a selfish, insensitive, bad parent. I'm sorry, you just are.
I'm gonna have you come back tomorrow morning at 8:30 in the morning. All right, just the mom's looking for the natural break.
I'm sorry. I've been sitting here talking and I've been muted. I think maybe I was automatically muted. Anyway, this is the parent of one of the victims. Okay, the Schilling, the child, the boy Schilling, and yeah, Justin Schilling's father, Craig, and he gives a very reasonable, restrained, thoughtful statement on this whole thing. But I think it's really important for us to hear from the victims and what their thoughts are on this, because they are the most affected by this. Okay. And he's not out here just asking for blood. He's not out here saying, guilty, guilty, guilty. That's right, Marie. She lost her freedom. She hasn't lost everything. Exactly. So listen to what this father says.
Justin's dad. And sir, what did you want to say? What did you want people to know?
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the events of what's going on, and the fact that that there's been many thoughts that have moved through my mind during the course of all of this. Just the sheer magnitude of these proceedings, accompanied with the many variables and continuously evolving nature of the case, that has kept me up at night. Questions like, what does this mean to me, and how does it affect things moving forward, lay in the forefront of my mind. Because of the fact that I am a victim in all of this, I have derived a strong opinion as it pertains to this trial. I'm sure that the fact that this is a first of its kind case and will be most likely affect the future of law, that many others have probably formed their own opinions as well. As the father of a murdered child, I feel that it is my parental responsibility to make sure that every stone is turned over and that every pertinent aspect is addressed to the fullest extent of the law, especially if it has never been addressed on that level before. The fact that school shootings are relatively new in modern society, we have to accept the difficult task of identifying and addressing the root causes of these horrible events, as well as openly discuss and understand the implications of our actions as they pertain to the root causes. This is a monumental task because there are just so many factors to take into consideration. And although it will most likely take years to see the effects of these actions, it's very important for each and every one of us to acknowledge the gravity of this very real situation and understand that the level of our own responsibilities is not limited to just our direct actions, that the choices we make to not take action can ultimately affect the course of anyone's life.
See, he's saying, regardless of the outcome, hopefully we all learn that our inaction can cause deadly harm. And he's recognizing the fact that there's a much bigger picture issue at play here. And that is that we're going through a really dicey growth like period, like a uncomfortable transition period where we don't know how to deal with this kind of rather new phenomenon of school shootings, which are becoming, something that's happening too much over the course of a few, of the last several years. How do we deal with that? What is the best way? And that is how laws are created in society. And so we're just in that uncomfortable period right now of trying to figure this out. But that is kind of what democracy is about. That is what a law and rule of law society is about. So he's not the most exciting speaker, right? But he's but he makes some really good points. So I just wanted to show that. The rest of what he says is, things that we've, heard from other people before. So I'm going to play the parts of the rest of what happens at the end of the questioning here.
I need to instruct you during the trial, do not read, listen to, or watch any news reports about the case. Research.
Okay. So not much goes on there. So I'm going to bring up the next. Yeah. This is where the cross-examination comes in the next day. And I'm checking the court feed real quick. You see here. Nothing going on in the court. Nothing. I'm regularly monitoring it. Don't see anything there yet. So let's get this one started.
You swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God.
I do.
So you can put your hand down, and could you state your name again for the record and spell your first and last name?
My name is Jennifer Crumbley, JENNIFER CRUMBLEY.
Go ahead, Pastor.
Thank you. Mrs. Crumbley, I'd like to talk to you about your vigilance as a parent. But before I do, I want to make sure that you understood the oath that you just took.
I do.
Okay, you understand that you took the stand under oath and you have to tell the truth.
I do.
You understand that was the rules yesterday as well.
Correct.
All right, we're going to come back to that. Now, you have been described by your attorney as a hyper-vigilant parent.
Correct.
Okay, do you agree with that?
I do.
In fact, you called yourself a helicopter parent before.
Yes, I was.
So you told us that you spent a lot of family time together.
We did.
Now, I'd like to talk to you about what your digital footprint shows,
Okay.
what the evidence on your phone shows.
Okay.
Now, it's true, you agree with me that having horses is a pretty time-consuming hobby,
It can be.
okay? It was for you,
It can be.
and that's what you said yesterday,
Yes.
okay? And you were at the barn for between 3 and 5 times a week,
More like 3 times a week.
3 times a week
Yeah.
for a couple hours a trip?
Correct.
Okay. It's also an expensive hobby.
It is.
So your banking records show that in the year of 2021, you spent over $20,000 on the horses. Is that correct?
Probably.
Okay. Been described by your attorney as a hyper-vigilant
CRUMBLEY.
parent.
I do.
Okay, you understand that you took the stand under oath and you have to tell the truth.
I do.
You understand that was the rules.
I'm sorry. I started it over just to make sure that I didn't start in the wrong place. Apologies for the confusion there. I just want to make sure I started in the right place. Yeah, her hair actually looked, halfway decent that day. Like she had actually brushed it. Do I think they were fleeing from prosecution? I do. I think they were fleeing from prosecution. I mean, I think maybe they weren't fleeing from prosecution, but they were fleeing from the cops. because why were they sleeping in a freaking art warehouse, right? It does appear that they were engaging with their lawyer to try to surrender, but they took so many steps to take themselves off the map, right? So it's almost like they were trying to go both ways, and they were seeing which way worked. I don't know.
Yesterday as well.
Correct.
All right, we're gonna come back to that. Now, you have been described by your attorney.
Morning,
as a hyper
Sparkles.
Vigilant parent.
Correct.
Okay, do you agree with that?
I do.
In fact, you called yourself a helicopter parent before.
Yes, I was.
So you told us that you spent a lot of family time together.
We did.
Now, I'd like to talk to you about what your digital footprint shows,
Okay.
what the evidence on your phone shows.
Okay.
Now, it's true, you agree with me that having horses is quite a time-consuming hobby,
It can be.
okay? It was for you,
It can be.
and that's what you said yesterday,
Yes.
okay? And you were at the barn for between 3 and 5 times a week,
More like 3 times a week.
3 times a week
Yeah.
for a couple hours a trip?
Correct.
Okay. It's also an expensive hobby.
It is.
So your banking records show that in the year of 2021, you spent over $20,000 on the horses. Is that correct?
Probably.
Okay. And that's not including cash. That's just from Capital One and Flagstar Bank.
Correct.
In fact, you told a coworker that half of your salary basically goes to the horses.
I might have. Yes.
That's a lot of money to be spending when you're not doing other things and then making excuses for them.
Now, except on rare occasion, you didn't bring your son with you to the barn.
He was not into horses. I would ask every time I went to the barn, but he didn't want to go.
So the answer was no.
No.
Okay. And at least as far as your horses being boarded with Kira Pennock from June of 2021 to November of 2021, your son never went with you. Is that correct?
I think he went once when my in-laws were in town and we met them at the barn.
Okay. But there was nothing stopping you from taking him.
No, he just didn't want to go.
Okay. It's a family atmosphere.
It can be.
Okay. Like the Halloween party that you had, that was for families.
Yeah, most of the kids there are young.
Okay. In the winters, you were on ski patrol as well.
Correct.
Okay. And that can be a bit of a time-consuming hobby.
It can be.
All right. And you would be on ski patrol between 1 and 2 times a week?
It's a total of 10 hours a week.
10 hours a week. Okay. So how many days?
I did doubles on Saturdays, so 1 day a week for me.
Okay. So you told this jury yesterday, you depicted your affair with Mr. Malash as a one time a week meetup at a Costco parking lot. Is that your testimony?
Correct.
Okay. But it wasn't just that, was it?
Nope.
Okay. In fact, there are numerous photographs sent to Mr. Malash.
Okay.
Yes or no?
I'm sure there was.
Okay. Numerous messages exchanged with him.
Correct.
And it wasn't just during the week, Monday through Friday, was it?
No.
No. In fact, that's what you said yesterday. But in fact, it included trips.
There were actual business trips that he met me on.
Okay. And included other individuals.
Yes.
What's Adult Friend Finder?
So where you can go on and meet people who meet certain tastes that you're looking for.
This is 429. And you had the app Adult Friend Finder on your phone.
I do not believe I had the app. on my
Okay. It
phone.
was found on your phone.
So if you're not paying attention right now, start paying attention, because her defense lawyer is about to pipe in the most unhelpful and unprofessional of ways. And yes, she is acting defensive. So keep watching.
Okay, well, I guess it was on my phone.
Okay. And there were messages from you to other individuals.
Correct.
Your Honor, I would object that this is going outside of the scope of the affair with Brian, but.
I don't think the court's ruling on opening the door was confined to just her extramarital affair with Brian Walsh.
Well, I guess, with regard to Mr. Malash, I determined that, the defense opened the door. I don't know that I determined that the defense opened the door as to other
She depicted herself as having one extramarital affair for about a 6-month period of time, where she met with him one time a week. That was her testimony yesterday. We have evidence to the contrary, and I think it's important.
It's gonna get exciting.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? This is going to be exciting. Watch this. Watch this again.
It's gonna get exciting.
Hey, Adrian. Oh, I just interrupted you. Hold on.
It's gonna get exciting.
Can you imagine being a parent in that room, a parent of one of the dead kids, and the defense attorney has the gall to stand up and say, "Oh, we're about to talk about threesomes and stuff like that"? This is going to be exciting.
All right, well, go ahead, but
I won't delve too far
Okay, yeah,
into it, Judge.
really, this jury has been here a long time, and
I respect your time, Judge. I'll be brief.
You might all blush.
So, Mrs. Crumbley, I'm sorry, this is not a laughing matter.
Did you hear that? She says they might all blush. And, you know, so she's trying to make light of a situation where basically the prosecution, the state is trying to impeach Jennifer's testimony and saying, oh, you know, it was just once a week and only on business trips. And he's saying, no. It was much more than that. Your attention was focused much more than once a week, and also on hooking up with other people along with Brian. It was much more than that. And Shannon here comes in and she's like giddy almost about it, as if it's going to be a Perry Mason moment for her or something, or it's a made for TV moment. We're talking about kids' lives who were just brutally, senselessly taken.
Mrs. Crumbley, on Adult Friend Finder, we see messages from you in at least of August of 2021, August the 4th, 2021.
Okay.
Okay, and you don't dispute August the 10th of 2021,
No.
August the 11th of 2021.
No.
And more importantly, November 21st, 2021.
No.
Okay, and more important than that, November the 28th, 2021.
No.
Okay, you don't dispute that evidence was found on your phone.
I don't dispute it.
Okay, and you don't dispute that it wasn't just you and Mr. Malash meeting after work hours. It was with you and Mr. Malash arranging with other individuals to meet after work as well.
No, I only met with Brian during work hours. The times that we were at the hotel, I was on business. We did arrange for other people to meet us there.
So Sunday, November the 28th. You remember that day? It was the day after you took your son to the shooting range.
I don't remember it.
You don't remember that day?
No.
2 days before the high school attack?
No, I don't remember what I did that day.
Okay. Well, you were pretty specific in what you did on November the 27th with the firearm. You remember that?
Correct.
All right. Now, November the 28th, 2021, you spent your time arranging a meetup with somebody on Adult Friend Finder.
I never met anybody on Adult Friend Finder that day.
Arranging a meetup.
Oh, okay.
I'm not just talking about the time that you spent physically with somebody. I'm talking about the time that you spent and devoted your energy to setting that up.
Okay.
And you'll agree with me, it's not just the time period at the Costco parking lot or the time period at the hotel or the time period on the trip, correct?
That's the only time I met with people.
Right. But that's not the only time that you devoted your own personal time and energy and focus to that, is it?
I guess I don't understand what you're asking.
Okay. Well, these meetups didn't just happen by themselves. You had to set them up.
Correct.
You weren't driven there. You weren't dropped off there. You set them up with somebody else.
Correct.
And that took your time and your energy and your focus to do so.
I don't believe it took too much time and energy. No.
Now, you told this jury that when your son texted you that he was seeing demons and bowls flying off the shelves, that was in the spring of 2021. You recall that evidence, right?
Correct.
You don't dispute that was on your phone.
No.
You don't dispute that at some point you read those messages.
No.
And you don't dispute that your son said at least one time, can you please text me back?
Correct.
Okay. You don't dispute that when you're at the barn.
Maria, I think the prosecution's theory is that the reason these things matter is because her attention was distracted, heavily distracted away from what was going on with her kid. And that if it wasn't so distracted, she would have been able to foresee that he could have been a candidate for conducting a school shooting, especially if he had access to a gun. I think that's their theory.
Your other messages show that you can take pictures, send pictures, and receive pictures.
Usually I'm at the barn. If I take pictures and I try to send them, they don't go through right away, or I won't send them until I hit a spot where I actually have service.
So in Exhibit 423, the Facebook message chat between you and James, the chat that you deleted, there are a number of pictures that James sent to you from the barn of a horse in a conversation about that particular horse. Do you
Okay.
dispute that?
No,
Okay. And in fact, dozens and dozens of pictures of the like.
I'm sure. Yes.
You're sure? Okay. And those pictures were sent to you with a timestamp on that Facebook message chat.
Okay.
Do you dispute that?
No,
No. Okay. And then you responded in that same time frame. Do you dispute that?
no,
No. So that conversation with that picture that was taken at the barn was occurring while one of you were at the barn.
I'm sure it was.
Okay. Now, you don't deny that your son wrote in his journal that he asked his parents for help. You don't deny that evidence that was admitted.
No, I don't.
Okay. And you don't deny that he wrote.
So this is where they're putting it together, that they're spending all kinds of time at the barn. And in the meantime, Ethan is saying, I was asking for help. And so is it against the law for the parents to spend time at the barn? No. Does it show that they could have, if they were not distracted, they could have reasonably foreseen this happening? Maybe. I don't know. But she was distracted. Her son was crying for help. This did happen. Are all those things connected in such a way that she can be convicted of involuntary manslaughter? I don't know.
Wrote in his journal that he now had access to the 6-hour 9mm handgun.
I do not deny that.
And you don't deny that the 6-hour 9mm handgun was in fact a murder weapon.
I don't deny that.
And you also don't deny that that gun was gifted by you and your husband to your son on November the 26th.
Describe gifted.
How about when you posted on Instagram his new Christmas gift?
Correct. And I explained yesterday that it was for him to use at the shooting range. We didn't just hand him a gun as a here you go, son. It was something he could use when we went to the range as a family together.
You don't deny that in April of 2021, you described your son as being depressed.
I didn't describe him as being depressed. I noticed that he was acting
You
depressed.
used the word depressed.
Yes, he was acting sad. He was acting depressed.
Okay. And you know what depressed means?
It means a lot of different things.
Well, to you, it meant depressed, and you wrote that.
Right.
You don't deny in April of 2021, the evidence shows that your son told his only friend that he had asked you for help.
No, I don't deny that.
Okay. And you also don't deny that he told his only friend that you laughed at him.
I do not deny that.
Now, yesterday you told us that you took those messages in the spring of 2021, which, by the way, is at the same time you started your affair with Mr. Malash?
Around that time.
Okay. So in the spring of 2021, when you sent those messages, or when you received those messages, you indicated it was messing around.
It was.
It was messing around. In your mind, messing around. That's what your testimony was.
Yes.
Okay. Even when he said, can you please text me back?
I didn't see his text message, so I didn't text him back.
Even when your phone logs show missed calls?
Can you ask it again?
Even when your phone logs show missed calls from your son in that time period?
No.
Now, you said yesterday.
I'm sorry, but when your kid is home alone, you haven't been there for quite some time. He's saying he's seeing things. He's telling other people he's been asking for help. He calls several times. He texts several times. He asks why you aren't picking up. You are too distracted. You just are. You're not paying close enough attention to your child. You're just not. And those are just the facts.
Okay. About these messing around texts, you agree with me that there's no indication in any text message, either between you and your son, or any Facebook message between you and your husband, in any of those exhibits, in fact, anywhere on your phone, that indicated that any of those messages were a joke.
No, there weren't.
There weren't. And we're talking about hundreds of messages between you and your son, and thousands of messages between you and your husband.
Correct.
And you don't deny that you never once took him to see a therapist or counselor.
No, I did not.
You did not. Now, you testified that, actually, Mr. Moss testified that you would meet during work hours, and we've established that it wasn't just confined to work hours, but we're permitted to leave as you please.
Correct.
Okay. And your boss actually testified that no problem if you needed time off.
Correct.
If you had a family issue, no problem, you can go.
Correct.
If you were sick, no problem, stay home.
Correct.
Okay. In fact, you could work from home on an as needed basis.
Correct.
Not many parents have jobs like that, you all. I mean, that's actually a privilege to have a job where they aren't going to give you any guff for leaving to take care of family matters in the middle of the day. I had those kinds of jobs. It was not easy for me to peel myself away from my work because of the pressure I was under to perform, even when my kids were sick. So that is the struggle that a lot of parents have to go through. And she had the privilege of having a job that was friendly about that.
In fact, on November the 30th, you didn't even ask your boss if you could leave. You just told him you were leaving.
Correct.
And you told him when you were coming back.
Correct.
And you told them when you were coming back after receiving a phone call from the school asking for an immediate meeting.
Correct.
Because that was at what, 10:05 a.m.?
Around that.
Okay. Now, had you ever been called? Have the TV on, please, Mr. Williams. Had you ever been called?
It takes some time for all three of them.
Sure, Doug. I have a few more questions I can ask before we get to these.
Okay, go ahead.
Have you ever been called to the school on an immediate basis before?
No,
Have you ever been told that your son had suicidal ideation before?
I was never told he had suicidal ideation before.
Okay, that's your testimony. But you've never been called to the school once for a meeting, I need to see you now,
No,
correct? Okay. So even before you had made it to the school, you had told your boss when you were coming back.
correct.
So you could already put a limit on that meeting.
Not necessarily.
Well, you said, I'll be back in about an hour,
Okay,
right? That's your words.
about an hour.
Okay, those were your words.
Correct.
This is Exhibit 74. Do you see it?
No, she doesn't.
Oh.
It's not on here. That's. Yeah, it takes a minute.
Okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah.
Okay. This was sent to you. So Sean Hawkins called you at 9:24 in the morning, correct?
Look at that drawing. I'm going to give it a little more focus here. Look at that drawing. This is the day that they called them into the school, right? That's not a normal kid drawing, y'all. That is why the school called her.
Correct.
Okay. You called him back at 9:27.
Correct.
You had a 5-minute phone call.
Correct.
And then in that phone call, he texted you the picture with it was drawn out, and he emailed you this original picture.
Yeah, he texted me the modified one and then later emailed me this one.
Later as a 9:32.
Yeah.
The thoughts won't stop. Help me. And I think there's a inclination for every parent who's watching this to compare to what they do to what Jennifer does. It's one thing to maybe miss one or two texts every once in a while from your kid, or one or two calls every once in a while for your kid, not to systematically ignore your kid. We have to, as a culture, as a people, understand nuances here. It's not just black or white. There was systematic ignoring of his outreach. He literally drew a picture of what he wanted to do. Literally. This, if you're going to pay attention to anything, please pay attention to this. If this serves as nothing more than a deterrent for the future, then that's what it's going to have to be. A deterrent for the future, for future parents to see all the things that led up to an actual school shooting and be on the lookout for that and understand what mental distress looks like before something happens.
Like after I asked him for it.
You looked at it.
I did.
Okay. You told us yesterday you found it, I think your quote was a little concerning. What struck you about this?
Originally, when I saw the modified one, I was kind of angry at my son because we just talked about his missing assignments in geometry and his E the night before. Then when I got this one and opened it, it was concerning. I honestly thought the guy on there was a poor drawing of Batman, the way the thing and the cat. I thought it was a cape. I didn't know.
You thought that was a cape?
I did. I didn't look at that closely.
What did you think of the gun?
I thought it was a gun.
Yeah. What about the fact that it is identical to the gun that you got him for Christmas a couple days before?
I mean, honestly, it's just like it looks like a gun to me. I didn't even notice.
Well, you took a picture of the gun. You posted it on Instagram. You know what it looks like.
I do, but I didn't analyze it.
You saw Special Agent Brandon's testimony. He described how it's identical. And you told us yesterday how your son was a good drawer.
He's a very good drawer.
Okay. What about the thoughts won't stop, help me? Does that ring out to you?
Yes, that was what was concerning to me.
Blood everywhere, and there's a bullet. And actually, you were the one who bought the bullets in November the 27th.
Correct.
You later came to learn that those bullets were used in the shooting.
I did.
Okay. So you said yesterday it was a little concerning, yet you told your husband emergency in all caps.
Correct. That's why I left to go to the school and I texted him.
And he wrote back, my God, WTF.
Correct.
And then you told him he was distraught about last night.
Correct.
Distraught's an intentional word you chose.
Correct.
Not sad. It's not a little anxious about school or his future. It's not talking about a video game. Distraught has a meaning.
Correct.
And you chose that word to send to him.
Correct.
So you went to that meeting, and this was November the 30th of 2021. And at that point, you'll agree with me that you knew prior to that day, the November 26th purchase date, that your son was wanting to get a 9mm. That's what you said yesterday.
Yes, I knew that they were talking about getting one because they had rented it in the past.
And you knew that he had shot one in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, and you knew that a 9mm is significantly more powerful than a 22.
I did not know that until I actually shot it.
Okay, well, your dad took your son with James to the shooting range when they visited in July of 2021.
Correct.
And they talked about how powerful the 9mm was because they rented one.
Okay. I don't know.
Yes or no?
I don't know if I was part of that conversation, but if it was, it didn't register to me.
It registered. Okay. You knew at the November 30, 2021 date that your son's friend had been taken without notice to your son.
Correct.
You said, I'm sorry, incorrect or
I said correct.
Correct. And you knew that when your son's friend was taken, your son was extremely upset.
He was upset, yes.
He didn't go to school for a few days.
I don't remember that.
Okay. Well, the school records show that he was absent for a few days after that. Would you deny that?
I wouldn't.
Okay. And would you deny that he missed school because he was so upset?
I don't know if he missed school because he was so upset or maybe he was sick. I don't know.
Now, you told us yesterday and you acknowledged that that individual, that child, was like a second son to you.
Correct.
So he was the only one that your son hung out with?
Outside of school, correct.
Okay. Well, who did he hang out with inside of school?
He named some names to me. I've never met them before, but he told me some group of kids that he sits and eats lunch with and he talks to in class.
Did he ever visit their houses?
No,
Did they ever visit your house?
no.
The only other peer to visit your house was this student who left the state around Halloween 2021.
At that time, correct.
We're talking about that time in October, in September, in at least August, July, June, May, all
Of
2021.
2021, correct.
2021, thank you. Now, he left on Halloween, and you knew that your son was planning to hang out with him on Halloween,
Yes.
okay? But his friend didn't show.
I had texted his friend's mom the day before trying to confirm if he was still coming over. And that's when we found out that he was driven to Wisconsin and taken to that school.
Okay, so you're telling us you found out the day before Halloween.
Yeah.
Okay. So that didn't stop you and James from going to a Halloween party at the barn.
I don't believe it was on Halloween.
Well, that's what Kira testified
It was
to.
it was the Friday before Halloween.
If there was a picture with a date stamp on it, would you deny it?
No,
Okay. And it didn't stop you from after you left that party without your son. You went to another Halloween party.
we did.
And your son was home alone at that point.
Yes.
So you talked to us a little bit about your son's hobbies in 2021. But in November of 2021, so we'll start with November the 1st, 2021. You know that those hobbies were non-existent. And I'll go one by one.
Okay.
So you told us about bowling.
Correct.
Bowling the team wasn't in session at that point in time, was it?
No, I think actually at that time he decided he didn't want to do bowling that year.
Okay, so he stopped bowling the
He did.
sophomore year.
He did.
And it wouldn't have been bowling season anyway.
I guess not. No.
So one hobby you talked about yesterday, that was not in existence in November 2021.
Correct. But we did still go to the bowling alley with him.
And you said that he worked, but would you be surprised to learn that he only worked a few shifts post-COVID?
No, not surprised at all.
Okay. So he wasn't at work every day.
No, he worked Tuesdays and Thursdays and sometimes Saturday mornings.
Okay. But not very often.
No, not very often.
A handful of shifts post-COVID, which of course, March 2020 is when things shut down.
He was working on a weekly basis.
And you knew that he didn't have any friends.
That's not the right way to put it. I knew he had friends, but no, he did not have many friends.
You had never met another peer his age who he referred to as a friend.
He actually had friends that used to come over prior to 2021 that he was still in contact
We
with.
went through defense exhibits yesterday from 2019 to 2020. I'm talking about 2021, at least from the time period where he sent you a message that he saw demons.
Right. In 2021, the only friend that came to our house was the one that was
Right.
on the thing.
So you knew to be true in November of 2021 that he had no peer support.
I don't know what he had in school. He told me he had friends in school that he talks to.
Okay. You never met him.
No.
Okay. And he didn't have any clubs at school he was a part of.
No, not that year.
So you told us yesterday that your son wanted to design video games.
Correct.
Okay. He wasn't in a robotics club or a coding club at the high school.
He did take a coding class prior to 2021, and he was in a robotics after school activity in middle school.
Talking about in
I'm
2021.
just telling you, he's been in that before.
Now, despite what you have called yourself as a vigilant parent and a helicopter mom, you never decided in at least November of 2021 to look at his phone.
No.
Okay. That's despite what happened in the spring of 2021, right?
What happened in the spring of 2021 did not concern me.
Okay.
So even if the verdict comes back not guilty, the kinds of questions that are being asked of Jennifer on the stand here are the questions that every parent should ask themselves. Does my kid have friends? Why? Is my kid acting strange? You know, are the behaviors that my kid are exhibiting ones that should concern any reasonable parent? Is my kid regularly reaching out to me and I'm ignoring him? Is this a good time to buy him a deadly weapon? Things like that. If nothing else, it shows the kinds of questions that parents should be asking themselves when attending a child's mental well-being, because social media has a very direct and very profound impact on a kid's mental well-being, whether they participate actively on it or not. It's what they're just seeing, right? So there were all kinds of signs that could have been seen if those things were being looked at, at least on a semi-regular basis, but it looks like she didn't at all.
Now, the one thing that seemed consistent with your son, to you at least, is his desire to obtain a weapon. Is that right?
I wouldn't say that, no.
He had a consistent desire to obtain a weapon.
Not to me, he did not.
Okay. You didn't know about the 9mm?
Oh, I knew about it.
Okay. You didn't know about the 22s?
I knew about them.
And in fact, you posted on Instagram that he got himself a 22
Correct.
in June of 2021.
Correct.
And from that time up until the November 26, 21 purchase, he was wanting to get a 9mm.
I know him and my husband had discussed getting a 9mm. I'm not part of those conversations.
But you knew about it.
I knew, but not that he was so, however you described it.
I said he consistently had a desire to obtain a weapon.
I know they consistently talked about it. Correct.
Okay. They didn't just talk about this is a gun. He talked about how he wanted the gun.
You're walking a fine line when you talk about being a helicopter parent, then being pretty ignorant of your kid's interest or not in buying a deadly weapon. It's not just a toy that you're purchasing, folks. It's a fucking deadly weapon. Okay? So you need to pay extra care when thinking about buying something like that for your kid. You just do. And that didn't happen here. I'm sorry, but it just didn't.
You don't deny that.
No.
In November 26th, you said you weren't there for the gun purchase.
No, it's not.
Okay. But are you telling us you didn't know it was going to happen?
I did not know they were going to the gun store that day. No.
Okay. But you knew that you were going to eventually get him a 9mm.
No, I did not know that.
Okay. So you're telling us that was a surprise purchase to you?
It was a surprise to me that they went to the gun store that day.
Okay.
It was not surprising to me that they purchased a gun that day.
And it didn't upset you that it bought a gun?
No, it did not.
It upset you that it cut into your Christmas tree shopping time, but it didn't upset you that it bought a gun?
Correct.
Okay. And you told us that it was, in your words, James's responsibility to take care of that gun.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you don't deny that, at least according to the cell phone evidence, the photographic and video evidence, you're the last adult to have possession of that gun.
Correct.
Okay. You were with him at the range on November the 27th.
Correct.
You saw your son shoot the weapon.
Correct.
You saw him shoot the last practice round before the shooting on November 30th.
At the range?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
You saw how he stood.
Honestly, that didn't mean anything to me at that time until this whole case came about and I've learned what a shooter's stance is. So
He knew how to use the gun.
yes, he did.
Okay.
He's used one before.
In fact, he showed you how to use the gun.
Correct.
Okay. And the stance he took, you saw from the Oxford High School video, was the same. You saw that, right?
I don't know. I can't compare it. I don't know.
But you entrusted this responsibility. You agree with me that owning a firearm involves a great deal of responsibility and trust?
I do.
Okay. And you entrusted this responsibility to your husband, James.
I did.
If you look at Exhibit 423, that's the Facebook chat thread between you and your husband. It's pretty clear you didn't trust James with much. Would you agree or disagree?
Depends on what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, you didn't trust him to get out of bed on time.
Correct.
You didn't trust him to cut the grass when it was time to cut the grass.
He would cut the grass when it got to a length I didn't like. I didn't trust him.
You didn't trust him to update you on his whereabouts.
There's a reason behind that.
You didn't trust him to not turn off or turn on the Ring camera in your home.
Correct.
You didn't trust him to keep track of your son.
Oh, I trusted him to track my son.
In those messages that we'll see in Exhibit 423, asking him, where is your son, over and over and over again, does that signify trust or distrust to you?
That was when my son was walking home from school. Not that I did not trust my husband with my son.
Okay. And you didn't really trust your husband to hold down a job.
It's not that I didn't trust him to hold down a job. He had a hard time holding down one after COVID.
Okay. And in those messages, you are constantly asking him about work, how much money he's making, and what he's doing to obtain employment.
Correct.
Okay. But this is the person you entrusted with a deadly weapon.
I did.
Why did you buy the Patriot defense rounds?
Where are the? Oh, that's the ammo. That was the ones my son told me to.
Whether or not this woman is guilty of involuntary manslaughter, you have to look at those facts and say, I would do differently. If I can't trust my husband to cut the grass, to get up on time, to know where my kid is, then maybe it's not a good idea for him to be in charge of the gun ownership, safety, and storage, and how the kid handles the gun. At least take that lesson.
Purchase. I didn't know anything about it. I'd asked him, and he told me to purchase them.
So you told the jury yesterday, I think you repeated it again today, that the gift was for target shooting only.
Correct.
Okay. Yet you bought 100 rounds of ammunition.
Correct.
And you only shot 50 while you were there.
Correct.
And those 50, at least according to some statements you made throughout the investigation, you put somewhere.
The box of them, yes, I did. I hid them.
Now, on November the 27th, when you came home, you posted pictures of the gun and targets to your Instagram account.
Correct.
And then according to the location data, your location data, you left.
I think this only went, well, I don't know. I must have, yeah.
Well, you don't deny that.
I don't deny
Okay.
it.
And your husband, James, was gone all day, according to his location data.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And you saw in the evidence that in the picture you posted, there's an ATF pamphlet on handgun safety for children.
Correct.
Did you read that?
I looked it over, correct.
Now, on Exhibit 74, I want to get back to this meeting for now. Exhibit 74, you don't deny that you could have left work for the day.
No, I don't deny that.
Okay. And you don't deny that you didn't tell the school officials, Mr. Hopkins and EJAC, about the gun purchase on the 26th.
No, we had stated that we went to the shooting range. I went to the shooting range with my son on Saturday.
You didn't tell them that you had gotten him that Christmas gift.
I didn't think it was relevant, no.
You acknowledge that you never told Mr. Hopkins and EJAC that it wasn't just a friend, but it was the only peer that you had ever met and left.
I had probably said his best friend.
You acknowledge that you didn't go home to look for that firearm after the meeting at the school.
We wouldn't have a reason to.
So that the answer is, and you acknowledge that?
No, I acknowledge that.
Okay. And you acknowledge that you had already made plans for the night to go to the barn.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you acknowledge that you had the time to stop at your house before you went back to work.
I would have, but I didn't have a reason to.
Now, you had told us that you had never taken your son to any sort of mental health professional.
No,
Okay. But you know how to obtain that help.
correct.
In fact, you have prescriptions related to that.
I do.
So it's not that you didn't know who to call or how to call, you didn't.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Yesterday, you talked a little bit about how you express emotion.
Correct.
And in fact, and then counsel asked you about your nerves when you testify. But you're capable of emotion,
Yes, I am.
right? Okay. And in fact, you had some explosive emotional fights with your husband.
What we did.
And that was in the home that you shared,
Correct.
okay? And with your son, we
Correct.
saw pictures of that home.
Correct.
And you told us that your son was at an age where he wouldn't text you back, I love you.
it wasn't a text me back, I love you. It's like in passing, like, hey, Ethan, good night, I love you.
Well, yesterday you told us that your son was at the age where he wouldn't text you back, I love you. Those
Well,
were your words
that,
yesterday.
yeah, but more or
Okay.
less like just saying it in passing. He
Yeah.
didn't. He wouldn't say it back. I said good night, Ethan, love you, and he did good night.
Okay.
For him to text me that he loved me was abnormal.
Abnormal.
Correct.
Okay. But you didn't respond to that text until 44 minutes later?
No, I was in a meeting at work.
Okay. And if you go through your entire text message thread between you two, the word love pops up how many times do you think?
Between me and my son?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay. 3.
Okay.
The first is in reference to the game chess about a year before.
Okay.
And the other 2 times are right before your son committed this act and after the shooting when you responded. Does that surprise you?
No.
Your Honor, I would just ask if there could be a foundation for the dates of those texts, because I feel like we got just a few texts.
Okay, well, I think he did you specify the date?
I did, Judge.
Two of the times were before and after the shooting, and the other time was when?
About a year prior. I could pull the date if council would like it.
And I'm also wondering if what the data he's relying on is coming from Jennifer's phone where she deletes all her texts, or if it's coming from the shooter's phone. Because the prosecution's asking questions, I just don't know the foundation.
Oh, sure. Let me clear that one up. It's from your son's phone. So all the messages would be contained there. You don't deny that information would be accurate.
No, I don't deny it.
Okay.
Hey all, just want to check in. So Pixie Dot, we actually haven't seen her yet today. We're watching her testimony from the other day before they started deliberations. So we have not seen whether she found a brush yet. Not sure. Hello, Tia Dash. Nice to see you. Hello, Kathy R. I appreciate that. Let's keep going here.
Now,
What time
you
period?
told us that
Well, she said he asked if the chess one was a year earlier, and the other 2 were close in time to the shooting.
the day of the shooting.
Yeah, I know.
I'm asking,
Those have been admitted in evidence.
do we know?
Wait, what's the question?
Okay, but he's asking about the text overall, which have not been admitted into evidence. And I don't know that the text chain has all the texts. There is no foundation that what Mr. Keese is looking at.
Judge, in cross-examination,
texts.
if the
He's
witness,
asked if that is that wrong? Would you argue with that? That's what he's asking. I mean, there are people.
I know, she just doesn't know what.
hold on,
okay.
counsel can't testify.
Well, there are people that end every conversation with love you.
Yeah,
Watch
Okay.
Shannon's reaction to this. Watch her violent reaction.
Testify.
I mean, there are people.
I know, she just doesn't know what.
Hold on,
okay.
counsel can't testify.
She's like, you're right. Ooh, oh, I can't testify. She starts testifying. Yeah, is she trying to get her own reality show? Yeah. I mean, seriously. He's like, she can't testify. And she's like, oh, that's right. I can't testify. She isn't super duper comfortable in a courtroom, as you can see. I just want you all to know also that I have been actively looking, to see if there's any action in the courtroom, and there has not. So just letting you know. Pixie Dot, I thought it odd as jurors were sent home last night and 3 were dismissed. So it wasn't 3 actual jurors. It was 3 alternate jurors. There were 17 jurors total. 5 of them were alternates. 3 were sent home. So now they have 2 alternate jury members. So there's still 12 jurors deliberating. What time am I there? It's 9:00 a.m. for me. 9:00 in the morning for me on the West Coast of the United States.
Well, there are people that end every conversation with love you.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm with that.
Okay, so, and there are people who don't, right? So he is asking what's normal for them, and would she be surprised that how many times they hear?
Yeah, I'm just asking, I get that, and I get that it's not common. I'm just asking. what
Judge, this is
period-
argument.
I'm just
Council can
asking
argue
what
whatever she wants to.
period of text this is from.
Well, you have redirect.
Okay, well, she doesn't know what he's even basing his questions on. That's
How,
my point.
okay,
Well,
it is inappropriate for council to
Okay, she
suggest to the
can say, I
court
don't know.
she or does not know.
She can say, I don't know, or
Okay.
she can also say, I don't understand the question. You
Okay.
can say that too. If you, Mrs. Crumbley, if you don't understand the question, ask Mr. Peace to clarify it.
Okay.
All right?
All right, thank you, Judge. Now, yesterday, Mrs. Crumbley, you talked about going into planning mode.
Yes.
Okay. And that was in reference to council asking you about emotions and how you express emotions.
Correct.
So I want to talk to you about your planning mode and your priorities from the time that you were arrested.
Okay.
Now, your phone calls were recorded from the time that you were arrested until now. Do you know
Correct.
that? You
Yeah,
know that,
I
right?
knew that.
You know that, okay. And your priority on your first phone call, December the 4th of 2021, was on your animals and the cash recovered from the art studio. Do you deny that?
I don't deny it.
Do you deny that it wasn't until 10 days later and 14 calls later that you even mentioned your son?
I was,
Do you deny it or not?
I don't, but I was under the impression that I couldn't mention him because I could get flagged at the jail.
Well, you mentioned him in later conversations,
I did.
okay? And in fact, in one, a year later, March 25th of 2023, you said he just needs to man up. Do you recall
I
that?
do not.
Okay, do you deny that you said it?
It sounds like something I would say.
In December 2021, your concern was about a GoFundMe. Do you remember that?
No, I do not.
I'm going to play this for you. Ms. Williams, can you have the volume up, please?
Is this submitted as an exhibit?
This is impeachment, Judge.
To answer your question, Teresa, our civil suits against the parents stayed until after the criminal case. I don't know specifically about this situation, but usually civil suits are held up until after a criminal case, you know, where it's the same parties and the same facts. Usually the criminal cases are prioritized. Yes. So if there are any criminal cases, and my understanding is that civil cases, my understanding is that some parents are planning to bring civil cases. Those will happen later. I've heard that there is a set of parents that are planning to sue the school, and that is waiting for, I think, these proceedings as well. And yes, the parents are paying for their attorneys, but they had court-appointed attorneys for the shooter, their son, which is just one more bad fact for the parents, in my opinion.
Well, there's no, for this.
Like he calls that for speaker face, but I know there's a lot of people that call the lawyer about the welfare of my horses. So, I mean, I'm just, I'm throwing shit against the wall to see what's fixed.
What's that?
I'm just throwing shit against the wall to see what's
Oh,
fixed.
I know.
Okay, that was between you and your dad.
Correct.
Okay. And you asked him to set up a GoFundMe to pay for the board of your horses.
I did, yes.
Okay.
So she asked for a GoFundMe for her horses, not for her child, to get an attorney. Now, you know, on the other side of that argument, I don't know who would have contributed for a defense fund for her child at that point. But it just goes to show what her mind was on at that point.
You were concerned about other things related to yourself around that time, weren't you? Is
yes.
this still planning mode?
I believe so.
Okay. And you were arrested December the 4th. This is going to be December the 22nd.
Okay.
Oh, I have a project for Mom.
Yeah, okay.
Can you have her Google, how many calories are in a bologna sandwich with white bread?
How many calories in a bologna sandwich with white bread?
Yeah, American cheese.
And what with American cheese?
Yeah.
You get some mayonnaise on it?
No, just mustard. No, there's not being mustard. And then peanut butter, jelly, on white bread.
And peanut butter jar white bread, okay, so he's looking up bologna right now. Is that what your lunch and dinner is?
For the most part, yeah, there's the other stuff, my cereals, now some of them are actually.
Well, American cheese, yeah, American cheese.
And an apple and a banana. Because they really
Oh, man.
just carb loading me, and I want to make sure I stay at like 1,000 to 100 calories.
No, I know bananas are 100 calories.
And then, okay, what about an apple?
Yeah. So the sandwich is 140 calories. Oh, 240.
Okay, I got 300, so that is
Yeah.
60
Yeah.
calories a day.
And then peanut butter jelly and white bread.
Still planning mode?
Well, I wasn't planning there, no.
Okay. Now we're talking about how you describe planning mode. You describe that in context to statements you made to the police on November the 30th, 2021. Right? That's the context you use the words planning mode in relation to.
Correct.
Okay. So you told us that the last phone call on December 31st, that was still you in planning mode. I want to make sure we can accurate depiction of what that is. Now here's one from January 15th, 2022.
No, it's not an issue of that, it's an issue of, that bank seems to be always, they have issues with their online stuff, and they have issues with, just all kinds of stuff. I don't see how they like bank these people, it's like, so.
This is about that child deposit thing.
So what?
Am I still getting a deposit of $300? That child thing the government does?
I just got, because I lost access. For some reason, I don't suppose that, I had access basically to view only, and it's hard to see everything on there, but then also I lost access, and then it took me, I lost access like a couple days before Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Is that still planning mode?
We were talking about filing my taxes if you played the whole thing.
You were asking about your child tax
Correct.
credit. If you're still going to get that $300.
My dad was doing my income taxes for me.
Now, when we started, we confirmed that you understood the oath that you just took,
Correct.
and the same oath you took yesterday.
Correct.
Okay. And you don't deny that you had $6,000 in cash in your purse the night you were arrested.
No.
You don't deny that your purse with the cash and 4 cell phones were in a plastic tote.
Correct.
You don't deny that that plastic tote was contained in a different plastic tote.
Correct.
You don't deny that your backpack with clothing items was found in a different plastic tote in a different area of that studio.
Correct.
Okay. And you don't deny that you knew you had been charged with involuntary manslaughter.
Correct.
In fact, as early as December the 1st, 2021 at 6:10 p.m., you were talking about how you're being charged with involuntary manslaughter.
That was what I was being told by a family that was texting me. That's what the charges might be announced as. Correct.
Okay, and one is to Mr. Malash. There's a text to your cousin about you are being charged with involuntary manslaughter. You don't deny receiving that.
No, I don't.
That's Wednesday, December the 1st.
Correct.
Right? And you sent your neighbor a message on Wednesday the 1st of 2021, 6:55 p.m. that you were reading, they may charge us.
Correct.
Okay. And December the 2nd, 2021, you wrote, they're saying involuntary manslaughter.
Correct.
Right? You don't deny that?
No.
And of course, you looked at different news articles about that the next day.
Yeah.
And later on that day. And then you texted, after all of these messages and news articles, on December the 2nd, 2021 at 2 p.m., we're fucked. You wrote that to Mr. Malash.
Correct.
Okay. And then you wrote announcing charges at noon on December the 3rd, 2021 at 8:17 a.m.
Correct.
And you wrote that to Mr. Malash, you wrote that to Kira, you wrote that to your dad, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you don't deny any of that?
No.
Okay. Now you told us yesterday that you popped 4 Xanax?
I did.
Okay, and your husband popped 4 Xanax?
Correct.
You said you went to bed about 11 o'clock.
It was around that time.
Okay. And the evidence that we have admitted show that you set your alarm for 6:30 a.m. and 6:45 a.m.
I don't know if it was me who set it, but it was set for that time.
Okay. And from the evidence, it shows when it was set too.
Correct.
Okay. And it was set a little after 11 p.m.
Okay, correct.
Yes? Okay. So yesterday you said, I want to say it was after 11 about going to bed. I want to say it was after 11, maybe around 11 o'clock when we finally went to bed. I prescribed Xanax for anxiety, and we each took 4 because we knew we were going to turn ourselves in the next day, and we hadn't slept in 4 days, and we just wanted to sleep. The question was, okay, so you each took 4? Your answer, we did. And the next question was, okay, so the next thing, the next piece of evidence we saw that was coming in that art studio, do you recall that? Your answer? I recall my husband screaming, "There's people with guns against interface officers." Question, what were you doing prior to hearing your husband screaming? Answer, we were sleeping. Question, okay, were you aware that there was anything going on? Answer, I was not.
Correct.
That's your testimony.
Correct.
Okay. And you know when you say something that isn't true, that's called a lie.
Correct.
Okay. This is going to be exhibit 430. Council does have a copy.
Is it
The entire thread.
perfect? No
There you
judgment.
go.
Oh, thank you.
Judges of the court have a copy?
Is this today's?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Any objection?
No.
Okay.
Mrs. Crumbley, you knew the police were there.
430 is admitted.
Thank you, Judge.
Not until I woke up. No.
Not until you woke up.
Correct.
Okay. Now, we heard testimony yesterday, or throughout the trial, that 911 was called at 10:43 p.m. You recall that?
Yeah, I saw in the video. Correct.
Okay, and on the video, the first officers arrived before 11 p.m.
Correct.
Okay, and either you or your husband, we couldn't tell from the video, but you tell me, was it you or your husband out there smoking?
That was my husband.
Okay, so your husband walks in shortly after the 911 caller walks in the building to call 911.
Correct.
That was on the video.
Correct.
Okay, and officers arrived. And then we've heard testimony from Mr. Kirtley, who had a studio there. We heard testimony from Sergeant Henrik, who was in the fugitive apprehension team, as well as Corporal Shaw with the Detroit Police SWAT team, about the amount of officers there.
Correct.
You recall that?
I do.
And you recall hearing the testimony that Corporal Shaw's team, their SWAT team, they actually used a 35-pound steel ram to bash in a door at the studio next to where you were at. You recall that testimony?
I do.
Okay. And your testimony was that you were asleep when the officers arrived.
Yes, I was.
Okay. But you had an alarm set for 6:30 in the morning on your phone, and that phone was found powered off, hidden in a tote, contained in a different tote, in a place away from the bed.
Correct.
You don't deny that?
No.
All right. And there are certain messages in 430. I'm going to go through them with you. This is actually to your attorneys. At the time, you had 2 attorneys. Marielle, this is Jennifer's phone. James and Jennifer are using Jennifer's phone now. That's it. December the 3rd, 2021, 6:04 p.m. Do you recall that?
I don't, but I don't deny.
Don't,
it.
okay, you don't deny.
No.
It. Okay. Your next message, the other phone broke. That's December the 3rd, 2021 at 6:04 p.m. The response was, when you can, we would like for you to call us. That was from either Ms. Smith or at the time co-counsel Mary Elaine.
Correct.
Your response, I'm sorry, this is from Marielle. Thank you. Shannon is calling you both shortly. Okay. the top it says to and from. I'll make sure I identify for the record. From Shannon, Marielle and I are going to come get you guys in the morning. We do not think it will help to make a statement that you're coming back now or that it will be tomorrow a.m. We can say that we told everyone you were coming back, and as of tomorrow a.m., you are back. That's Friday, December 3rd, 2021, 7:02 p.m.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So that's after James had already moved the car around and backed into the parking spot.
I believe so.
All right. From Shannon, we can show them that everything we said was going to happen did happen. That's Friday, December 3rd, 2021 at 7:02 p.m. Right?
Right.
Your response, okay, that's at 7:03 p.m. From Shannon, I'm going to drive home from my office right now and call you guys in about 40 to 45 minutes so I can get all the bond factor information written down for Marielle and me. That's Friday, December 3rd at 7:36 p.m.
Correct.
Okay. Your response, okay, we'll be waiting, 7:37 p.m. Shannon, I'm going to call in 1 minute. That's at 8:54 p.m. that Friday night. Your response was okay. You recall?
I don't, but I don't deny it.
But you don't dispute the records.
Correct.
The next message you send was, think we might have found, don't know, just heads up, please check. December the 3rd, 2021, 11:14 p.m.
That was written, but I do not believe it was written by me.
Okay, you don't remember. Well, you told us you don't remember any of these text messages. You just
Right.
specifically
I
don't remember this
read
one?
read through it, but
You don't deny that this was on your phone, what we refer to as the burner or track phone.
correct. We
You don't deny that.
were both using that phone at the time because my husband's broke.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, what was it that either her or James were trying to say at, after 11 p.m. that evening, the night before supposedly they were going to turn themselves in? I think we may have found, and then they don't finish the sentence. What did they find? Did they find a new way to did they find a new idea? Did they find a new place to stay? Did they find out that find out that something is wrong? What do you guys think? What is it? Let's listen to that sentence again that was typed on her phone. Find what? What is this?
Okay, you don't remember. Well, you told us you don't remember any of these text messages. The next message you sent was, think we might have found, don't know, just heads up.
Think we might have found, don't know, just heads up. Now, in their defense, they are talking to their lawyer. And, the conversation appears to be about turning themselves in, right? So it seems like to me like they're straddling two fences. They're like, should we turn ourselves in and cooperate with our lawyer? And presumably the lawyer is talking to the DA and figuring out what the bond elements are and, the charges and all that type of stuff so that they could arrange a surrender. But they've taken such extensive lengths to hide. They're in some random building. They have all this cash on them, $6,000 of cash. There's just all those facts added up together. You just have to wonder what was it that they were planning? What was it that they were thinking? And sometimes people use lawyers to escape justice. And that, I'm sorry if that is hard to hear for people, but they do. And I'll give you an example of the Gabby Petito case. Okay. In my opinion, the Laundries used their lawyers to try to help Brian escape justice. And that's one of the reasons that the Laundries are being sued by the Petitos for intentional infliction of emotional distress, because the Laundries appear to have known that Gabby was dead. They didn't tell Gabby's parents, who were frantically looking for her. They retained an attorney and had that attorney deal with all the public issues and all of the, personal issues between the Laundries and the Petitos while the parents are frantically looking for their child. So sometimes lawyers are used as fix-it people. Fix-it people. That's a good thought, Solo Sock. Maybe they meant, I think we might have been found because he was outside smoking a cigarette and he saw somebody seeing him smoking a cigarette. That's an interesting theory there, Solo Sock. Interesting that the son got public. Yeah, exactly. I know. We've been talking about that, Tia. It's crazy.
Please check. December the 3rd, 2021, 11:14 p.m.
That was written, but I do not believe it was written by me.
Okay, you don't remember. Well, you told us you don't remember any of these text messages. You just
Right.
specifically
I
don't remember this
read
one?
read through it, but
You don't deny that this was on your phone, what we refer to as the burner.
So if they have no problem with turning themselves in, why would they be concerned with being found? Right? You just have to look at that with a side eye.
Or track phone.
correct. We were
You don't
both
deny that.
using that phone at the time because my husband's broke.
Okay. And then you wrote in quick succession, don't know, 11:16 p.m. We might have been found, 11:16 p.m. Laying low,
Have been found.
11:16
Okay.
p.m.
They do go on to say
You don't deny that these are the records.
No, I don't.
Okay. Response from Shannon. Oh shit. Friday, December 3rd, 2021, 11:16 p.m. Now we know from all of the objective evidence, the testimony, the video, everything that the officers testified to, they were on scene before 11 p.m. You don't deny that.
No, I don't.
You don't deny that there were hundreds of officers on scene.
I don't know how many were on scene.
Okay. How many did you see when you got pulled out of the art studio?
Honestly, I don't know. It all happened so fast. I knew there was more. There was a few. There was more than a few, but not.
We saw the body
hundreds.
camera footage.
Right.
Okay. I do want to make a point so everyone's aware. This exhibit was just made admissible this morning.
Correct.
Okay. So we actually just received it this morning, and when you testified yesterday, you didn't know this exhibit was going to come into evidence.
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk to you now about
Yeah, it
the
seems
night
more
before.
like that than not, Tia.
November the 29th, 2021. You had testified that you got into a fight about grades with your son.
Correct.
Okay. Is that because you checked Power School?
Yes.
Okay. During that fight, did you lock your son out of the house?
We did not.
You don't deny that he was outside of the house?
He did. He did walk out of the house. He was upset.
Okay. You told us that you took his phone.
We did.
That's not true, is it?
It is true.
On
We took
November the 29th, 2021, your son filmed a 19-minute video while he was outside describing what he was going to do the next day.
What time was that taken?
10 o'clock.
I don't know if he got it back. I know we took the shooting range away and we took his gun away. So I don't know if he got it back.
Okay.
How do you
All
know?
the times that
How can you know if something got taken away and not given back? Something that serious. Sorry. I'm sorry, but the more I hear this woman testify, the more it pisses me off. Whether she's guilty of involuntary manslaughter or not, she fucking pisses me off.
you were at the barn, there was nothing stopping you other than you told us he didn't want to go, right?
Correct.
There's nothing stopping you on November the 30th, 2021 from taking him home.
Correct.
Nothing stopping you. You know, actually, I want to go back to what you just said. You took his gun away.
We took the shooting range away.
You said you took his gun away.
No, I said we took the shooting range away.
Your son could have been with you those 3, 4, 5 times a week when you were at the bar.
He could have, yes.
Your son could have been with you on those times when you were with either Mr. Malash.
I mean, I just want to reiterate, okay? I just want to reiterate that she was just testifying to the night before everything happened. He was outside of the house. She doesn't say, she won't admit whether he was locked out or not. All right, I'll back it up so we can hear whether she says gun and range. Let me make sure. I'm not sure if I backed it up enough. Let me see.
Okay. The son filmed a 19 minutes at the house.
He did walk out of the house. He was upset.
Okay. You told us that you took his phone.
We did.
That's not true, is it?
It is true.
On
we took
November the 29th, 2021, your son filmed a 19-minute video while he was outside describing what he was going to do the next day.
What time was that taken?
10 o'clock.
I don't know if he got it back. I know we took the shooting range away and we took his gun away. So I don't know if he got it back.
Okay.
Away. I don't know if he got it back. I know we took the shooting range away and we took his gun away. So I don't.
Yep. You're right. We took his gun away. We took his shooting range away. Did you really?
I don't know if he got it back.
Okay. Now, all of the times that you...
And you don't know if he got it back. Well, he did get it back somehow, whether he went and found it or not. But I'm going to show you in a minute that he actually did testify to accessing the gun.
We're at the barn. There was nothing stopping you other than you told us he didn't want to go, right?
Correct.
There's nothing stopping you on November the 30th, 2021 from taking him home.
Correct.
Nothing stopping you.
See, that is a audacity. That is a very nuanced position, and I can appreciate that. I'm pro Second Amendment, as is my husband. We should all be pro our rights, right? We are. I'm pro our rights. The Second Amendment is our right, right? We both still say, continuing with the comment, she should be guilty, if not for access to the gun, for not getting him help when he pleaded for it over and over. Had they got him, this could have been prevented. And those are honestly the two questions that are sitting before the jury right now. Did they, were they so negligent that they allowed him access to a deadly weapon? And were they negligent in not getting him help when he clearly was asking for it? Right? Yeah, it's possible she meant to say phone instead of gun when she said the gun in the range. But anyway, let's keep going.
You know, actually, I want to go back to what you just said. You took his gun away.
We took the shooting range away.
You said you took his gun away.
No, I said we took the shooting range away.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a tendency to politicize this conversation. It doesn't need to be politicized. I agree. This isn't just about Second Amendment rights. It's about whether we take liberties with those rights by being negligent to the care of other people in our society. With those rights come responsibilities, right?
Your son could have been with you those 3, 4, 5 times a week when you were at the bar.
He could have, yes.
Your son could have been with you on those times when you were with either Mr. Malash or somebody else.
No.
In the weeknights, he could have been with you after school, after work.
It's a good point.
I wasn't with Mr. Malash at those times.
Okay, the other individuals then.
I wasn't with them either at those times.
according to the
I
friend
might
finder.
have messaged people at those times, but I was not with anybody at those times.
He could have been with you on the Halloween party.
He did not want to go. It was a bunch of little kids.
And on November the 30th of
Okay, but here, look at the choice she made. This is just a tiny little thing right here, a tiny little thing. Okay, this is not about her guilt or innocence in this case, but she keeps making excuses for not spending time with him. So Halloween is a family holiday where you spend time with your kids, and I know when they're 15, they're not kids, but you know, you're usually home for your kids. And she's like, oh, there's a party at the horse range. Sorry, there's a party at the stables, and I'm going to well, I don't want to go because it's boring. Okay, well, I'll stay home with you then. I'll hang out with you for Halloween. No, she chose to not be with him on Halloween, knowing that his only friend had just been shipped away to a mental health facility for his OCD. If nothing else, take these examples of what not to do as a parent to a child.
2021 at 12:51 p.m., you could have been with him,
I could have, yes.
and you didn't.
Nope.
Nothing further.
Redirect.
Thank you. Mrs. Crumbley, I just have two areas of questions for you. Mr. Keys played some recordings. Who were you on the phone with in those recordings?
And my dad.
Okay, so you asked a couple of questions about calories, and then what was the other one?
I guess the child tax credit.
Okay, how often did you speak with your dad?
During the summer, it was every day. They went back to work. It was just on the weekends. They're both teachers.
And how many hours a day do you spend with other people?
Sometimes it's none. Sometimes it's when they walk by my cell, I'll talk to them, but I'm locked down 23 hours a day. I get 1 hour out by myself. I talk to my clergy lady legally, so I see her. Sometimes I talk to the church priest, or I'll talk to my attorney, but it's about the most human contact I get.
So I guess one of my questions is, when you do talk to people, you talk about, are there more conversations than just those?
Right, there are.
Okay. And then that night on December 3rd, going into the 4th, after 11, there was one phone being used, is that right?
Correct.
Whose phone was being used?
It was my burner phone.
Who was using the phone?
My husband was using the phone.
Okay, were you also using it?
No, I was using my other phone.
Okay.
So he started using my burner phone. I used the one with our regular phone number to do anything on.
Okay, so these messages are from the burner phone.
Correct.
To myself and Mario.
Correct.
So the ones after 11 o'clock, so at 11:17 or whenever these texts came in, what were you doing?
When I saw the video of my husband going to the car and having a cigarette, I knew I was probably sleeping at that time, because I did not like us not being together after what happened to us on the 30th when the police came to our house. So if he went out to have a cigarette, it was most likely because I was asleep.
Okay, when guns were in your face and we saw that on the video, before that, had you been asleep?
Yes.
Are you absolutely sure about that?
I'm positive.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
I'm going to excuse you for about 10 minutes, and we'll see where we're headed.
All right. So that is the Jennifer Crumbley testimony, all of it, the examination and the cross-examination. Let's pop over together to the Verdict Watch feed on Law and Crime and check it out. It's still just hanging out with no verdict. There's no verdict, but there's something else interesting I want to show you. And I have not watched this yet. I just noticed it's here. I don't know if you're all familiar with a creator called Mel, but he found where Ethan Crumbley testifies that the gun box was not locked. The gun box was not locked. And we've been talking about, did he talk about how he got access to the guns? So this may give us some answers, right? Let's see what he says.
Is it true that you picked that gun out to buy?
Yes.
Is it true that on November the 30th, 2021, that 9mm handgun that you used in Oxford High School was not kept in a safe or locked container?
Sorry, repeat that.
Is it true on November the 30th, 2021, when you obtained the firearm, it was not kept in a locked container or a safe?
Yes, it was not locked.
People are satisfied.
It was not locked, people. You know what? You can be the most pro-rights gun owner in the world. And if you do not lock your gun, you are negligent. You should be able to foresee that if your son is drawing pictures of guns saying, "Help me," that it's possibly foreseeable that he could go cause a shooting at his school. That's what's at question here. And me personally, I say guilty, but I would have a really, 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 really difficult time coming to that conclusion if I was actually on the jury. But this is what just sealed it for me right here. He said it was not locked. Now, unfortunately, or whatever, this is not in evidence in the current trial, right? That was even a question that was asked yesterday by the jury. Why isn't there testimony from Ethan about whether or not, about how he got access to the gun? And here we see that he says it was unlocked, right? That's important. So whether or not, this trial ends up being fair and has all the facts, and whether she's found guilty or not guilty, as far as Ethan is concerned, that gun was unlocked. And if you saw the video of what he was doing in the police substation immediately after the shooting, he was basically in psychosis, saying over and over and over and again, crying, yelling, "God, you didn't stop me. You didn't stop me. You didn't stop me." So that's a kid in mental distress, thinking he has voices. There's, bad voices in his head, and he wants God or somebody to stop be the good force to stop that. And when you're in psychosis, or when you have mental distress, and you have difficulty understanding the difference between reality, what should be reality and what isn't reality. Well, Tia, even if it was his gun. So a couple answers to that question. Even if it was his gun, it should be locked. He was 15, right? Not only that, but she said it was locked. Like, one of the first things she says in the substation is, "Oh, it was secured. It was hidden. It was locked. It was secured. He shouldn't have been able to find it." So she lied about it. She lied about it. And Tidy Girl says the lock chain was never even taken out of the plastic bag for it to be locked. Y'all, if you have guns, exert your rights, but be fucking responsible about it, because people die when you're not. So, you know, I know I'm being particularly impassioned about this. Let me just check the court feed again. Let's check out that court feed. We'll see how the camera is moving a lot. The camera moves a lot, but there's still no jury. There's still no jury. Now, I want to show you, before we transition to another set of testimony, and the testimony I'm going to show you is from the assistant principal, because I think the assistant principal's testimony is chilling and telling of what it is like to literally stand face to face with a school shooter in the midst of a school shooting, right? So I want to show that. But before that, I want to show a short clip from a scene from Peaky Blinders that was really powerful to me, because what we're talking about here, what could be in play here is, you know, the transgenerational trauma that so many of us suffer from. When cycles are not broken, when we are abused by our parents, they were abused by their parents, they were abused by their parents, and so on and so on. We have to break the cycle at some point, right? We have to break that cycle at some point, but some of us don't understand. Sometimes we don't understand how the cycle keeps going and going. We don't understand that when we have been abused, we see things in a way that then, if we don't correct it, gets transferred on to the next generation. And I think that this scene I'm about to show you really powerfully shows it. And I'm hoping that I don't get some sort of copyright issue. I'm going to probably scroll through it a bit so I don't get a copyright issue, because this is heavily copyrighted content, meaning, you know, very, you know, it's not, I'm definitely doing fair use on this for commentary purposes only, but it is a, you know, it's a produced show on Netflix, where first by the BBC. So nobody's disputing that, Marie. Nobody's disputing that. So are we on that? Yeah, hold on just a moment.
Good morning, sisters.
So I'm going to forward to this.
Peaky Blinders. This is safe. Arson.
So you don't need too much context here. What you just need to know about this scene is that they are talking to the nuns about how they have been abusing the orphans in the orphanage. Okay. So just to continue, to see the world broken like those children will. And that is just the metaphorical definition of transgenerational trauma. When we're beaten, we see the world differently and not in all of the correct ways. And then if we don't address that in our lifetime, we're likely to pass that down to our children, and then they will to their children if we don't break the cycle. Okay. So that was just a short interlude, like a little intermission, a little artistic, you know, flavor. Not the best way to drill that into the nuns by threatening them with violence, but, you know, it's artistic license or whatever. So I'm now going to transfer over to the testimony of the assistant principal. All right. But real quick, I'm going to check for a verdict. Yeah, it's a really good series. It's really, really well done. Yep. Nobody's there. Nobody's there on Twitter X or whatever. Wait, what? Oh, that's first day. Sorry. Yeah, no. No verdict, no verdict. Okay, I'm going to show this testimony. I don't know what you're talking about, Madison Cruz. Everyone is respectful here as long as they are respectful to me and the other chatters. I put a very clear set of expectations in my description. If you do not respect those expectations, you will be booted. And if you have any think that you were booted unfairly, you can send me an email and appeal your case. So let's watch this assistant principal's testimony. It's chilling.
Christy Gibson Marshall, KRISTYGIBSON-MARSHALL.
Thank you. Good morning. May I call you Christy?
Yes,
Christy, could you please tell the jury where you're employed?
Oxford Community Schools,
How long have you been with Oxford?
29 years.
And what do you do right now?
I'm an assistant principal
Okay. And that's at the high school?
at the high school.
How long have you been the assistant principal at the high school?
6 years.
And what did you do before that?
I was an elementary principal.
Also in Oxford District?
Yes.
Now, if you could tell the jury a little bit about your role as an assistant principal. What are some of your responsibilities?
Teacher supervision, evaluation, curriculum and instruction, supervising. I do parent communications. It's hard to think of all the stuff that my big giant list while I'm sitting here, but we have a student relations team that works together to support our alphabet, part of the alphabet. Big goal is, like, to me, my biggest role is supporting students, and I love the kids, so just bringing energy and having fun with them.
You've been in education, you said, for 29 years?
Yeah, yes.
So up until this role, you were an elementary school principal?
I was, and then prior to that, I was a teacher.
Teacher before that, okay. Now, as it happens, the school that you were principal at was Jennifer Crumbley's son, one of those students.
Yes.
And what grades, if you recall, was he there?
4th and 5th.
Did you have any contact with him in your role as a principal in those 4th and 5th grade years?
No.
Do you have any contact with his mother or father?
Not that I remember. I had an email about a report card once, but that's all I remember.
And that would have been years prior?
Like 5th grade going to 6th.
Now, I'd like to direct your attention to November the 30th of 2021, about 12:50 in the afternoon. So we have the screen in front of you. That should be displaying People's Exhibit 5. This is a map of the Oxford High School.
Yes.
If you could tell us, if you recall, where you were about 12:50 in the afternoon that day.
I was in the cafeteria. I started in the cafeteria supervising lunches. So what would be, I guess, they're the commons.
So right
Yes,
here?
correct.
Okay. So was that lunchtime while you were there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And is there a time where you moved? So around that time on November the 30th, did you have a specific area of the school you would go to, or did you move around?
We didn't have an assigned area, but I like to go to the senior courtyard after lunches and just kind of help. See, this yeah, that courtyard area.
Okay.
The hallway out in front of this courtyard area between where you see 400 and 401.
Okay.
Our seniors hang out there and they congregate in a good way, not terrible. Let me just clarify. It's kind of like the rite of passage, and we just like to kind of go there and keep traffic flowing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something you would do on a routine basis?
Yeah. My bad mom joke on that one is that I make it a senior citizen window and I stand in that area.
Was there a point that day when you realized something was going wrong?
When I was approaching the senior courtyard, so when I was coming down the hallway from the commons, what says commons, I call it cafeteria, by the media center, by the courtyard, and hit the 500 room. When I kind of got to that triangle there, that diamond there, one of the students that I know pretty well went running by and said, "Get the hell out of here." And he was laughing and running, and I was like, that was a mixed message.
Sure. At that point, was there an announcement on the loudspeaker?
No, not at that point. No.
Was he the only one running?
Shortly after him, there was a group of kids laughing and running behind him. When I stopped to ask them what was going on, they weren't entirely sure. But as kids started to pass, you could see it got more serious.
Okay.
I grabbed my walkie-talkie and I
What do you mean it got more serious? What do you mean by that?
their faces got more, I'm sorry, their faces became more serious.
Did that signify something to you when you saw that?
Yeah, just something, them running signified something to me because it's not a typical behavior.
Okay.
But the running and laughing was confusing. And then when their faces became more serious, I was started to get very worried. And that's when I grabbed my walkie-talkie.
Okay. What'd you do with your walkie-talkie?
I said, I'm not sure what's happening, but kids are running in the hallway, which is very odd. And look like they're trying to leave the building.
So where did you go?
They shortly after I got on the walkie, they went to Alice Alert. And so
What's Alice Alert?
Alice Alert is our intruder. I'm going to call it intruder alert because that's what it was that day. But it's a notice that we need to take cover, lock down, be aware. It's an emergency assistance.
An alarm ringing, or is that somebody who's giving a message over the PA system?
On that day, it was a message over the PA system.
Do you recall who gave that message?
Steve Wolf.
Who was that?
Steve is our principal.
He's the principal. Okay. So is this shortly after you saw the students leaving that appeared to be more serious to you?
Practically the same. Yeah, it was like they went, when the more serious students came by, the announcement went on.
Okay. Now, when you hear that announcement, what were you supposed to do?
I'm supposed to lock down.
Did you?
No.
What did you do?
I went to check the hallways to make sure people were okay.
When you first started to check the hallways, did you see anybody?
The hallways cleared so fast. When I made the turn down the 400 hallway, I ran into a teacher who was locking his door. And then a student came up who was running late. He asked if it was a drill. I let him know that it didn't matter if it was a drill or not. Just, you got to take cover, get in there. And then I proceeded down the hallway. I was the only one in the hallway at that point.
Did you hear anything?
First, I smelled something. I smelled what I thought was cap gun. Later, figured out it was gunpowder. And then I heard two.
I want you guys to notice here. So there's no question that this witness's testimony is true and real and accurate. She's testified before. She testified in Ethan's trial. So there's no question whether she has actual trauma from this experience. So please pay attention to what it looks like when someone who has gone through a real trauma, how they explain things and how different it is from the way, say, Amber Heard explained things when she was testifying, how she was, And I know everybody's different in how they explain trauma, but Amber Heard was trying to convince everybody. Usually when you're explaining a trauma, you don't need to embellish things to convince people that it happened. The fact that it just happened is enough. And it's so hard to get through the description of what happened that you don't have the energy to be trying to embellish everything and convince it and act like it just happened like two minutes ago. So watch as her voice starts to shake, as she starts to hesitate, as it becomes harder and harder for her to get the words out of her mouth. And it's understandable.
2 gunshots.
Where were you when you first smelled what you thought to be cap gun?
Probably by like the somewhere between 409 and 414.
So you were continuing to walk down that hallway, the 400 hallway, towards the 200 hallway. That's in yellow highlight.
Yes, that's where I heard the gunshots. I was going that direction.
You were walking towards the gunshots.
Yep. Yes.
As you walked down.
See, he says you were walking towards the gunshots, and she didn't say, yes, I was. And I'm such a hero. She's like, yep, I did. Because she's remembering how, now looking back, how scary that is to actually be walking toward the gunshots unarmed in the middle of what's possibly a school shooting.
Down the hallway, did you see anybody else?
No.
Tell me where you went.
When I got to the end of the hallway, I realized how dumb this is. I turned left to go towards where I heard the gunshots.
So this hallway.
And I went towards 225.
So you came down the 400 hallway and you turned left towards 225.
Yes.
Tell us what you saw when you made a left.
I saw a student laying on the ground.
Did you know who he was?
I didn't at that time, no. His face was covered. And then as I continued a couple of steps, I could see another student walking my direction. He had just dropped his arm was up and then he dropped his arm.
Did you recognize him?
Not at that point, no. He was too far away.
What did you do when you saw a student on the ground?
There was a garbage can between he and I, so I moved the garbage can out of the way and I put my foot near him and nudged him and told him to stay there.
Did he respond?
No.
Could you tell if he was injured at that point?
You could tell he was injured.
What happened next?
Ethan then came into closer view and I could tell it was Ethan.
He had been at the school where you were principal?
Yes.
Did you interact with him at all at Oxford High School?
Just normal, like how I interact with everybody. High fives, hugs, silly stuff that I do.
Okay.
I brought my elementary to the high school, so I just.
Did you say anything to him?
Georgina, I'm not sure. So the thing that's scrolling at the bottom is just that's me letting people know. I'm sorry, it's raining here, so if it's loud, I apologize. That's just me letting people know that I'm watching the court feed to make sure there's not a verdict as we watch other testimony. The other, there might be other scrolling from the news channel, but there's also closed captioning on the screen in the YouTube video that we're watching, in case it's hard to hear, because sometimes the testimony is hard to hear. Sometimes the court is hard to hear. So that's what that is.
When he got close enough to me that we were sharing the hallway. So he was kind of walking down the center and I was kind of over to the side. So we're probably 3 feet apart. I asked him if he's okay. It just didn't seem right that it would be him. He just,
So I need to back up just a little bit. When you saw, you didn't know who it was at first, the student down the hallway, you said he had lowered his arm.
I knew it was a shooter when he was down the hallway.
Okay. Could you see if he was holding anything?
I could see a gun.
At that point, was he walking towards you or away from you?
He's walking towards me. It was when I realized it was Ethan that I didn't think he could possibly be the shooter is what happened. Like, I know I said I knew it was a shooter down there because I could rationalize that that is a gun. He is putting that gun down. He just shot something.
Okay. Now, I know this is difficult, but I need you to use your teacher voice and speak.
Okay.
Loud as you can. You saw him coming towards you. How close, how far from him were you when you recognized who it was?
He was probably by the room 221 when I could tell who he was.
Okay.
And I was standing between.
Oh, Tia Dash, thank you very much. I have a clip for you. I have a thank you clip for you. Let's see, which one should I pick? Okay, okay. We need a little levity here, okay? So just bear with me. This is in thanks for Tia Dash gifting memberships. And please, everyone, whoever gets a membership, please thank Tia for those gifted memberships.
Good morning, sir. What's your name?
Me?
Yeah, you. Yes.
Nathaniel Saxon, sir.
Your name's not Buttfucker 3000, you yo-ho. What kind of idiot logs into court like that?
Oh my gosh. The way people show up in court, people show up in court. This guy showed up on a Zoom call with that name. BFer to the 3000. Jeez Louise. All right. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. Thank you very much, Tia. We will continue.
Between 226 and that white section there that, yeah. There's exit doors there.
Now, you said you said something to him?
Yeah, it seems so odd that it was him. So I said, buddy, are you okay? What's going on? And when he didn't respond to me and he looked away, that's when I knew it was him, that he was the shooter.
Did he point the gun at you?
He did not.
What did you do at that point?
I got on the walkie and I told my team that I have eyes on a shooter and I have a victim.
Imagine being that person. Having to get on the walkie-talkie and say, and you're unarmed, and you're an assistant principal, and you have to say, my eyes are on the shooter, and I have a victim. Oh.
Now this hallway, 200 hallway, there's a curve to it.
Yeah, yes.
And he was walking, if we follow the mouse cursor here, he was walking down the 200 hallway towards 233, 237?
Yeah, he was walking that direction.
That direction?
Yes.
Did you watch where he went?
No.
What did you do?
There was a student who was injured, so I went to him. I knew he needed me.
He has, I know you're aware, but there's been certain rulings by the court. So just in general terms, did you render aid to that student?
I did.
Could you tell if he was injured at that point?
Yes.
Did you recognize him?
Yeah, I knew another one of my students from Lakeville, Tate Near. Just took my breath away.
I'm already an emotional person. This just broke my heart. She knew the kid. You know, these school administrators, they know these kids.
You were on the walkie-talkie, you said?
Yes. So I let them know I had eyes on the shooter and that I had a victim. Kurt News asked me where I was. It's probably the biggest hallway we have, and I said I was in the 200 hallway. Kurt let me know that that's a very big hallway and needed more direction. I don't know why I couldn't process the fact that, like, my exact location. I told him I was near the 400.
Okay. Did you stay with Tate until help arrived?
Yes.
Now, you have seen at least a portion of the Oxford High School surveillance video, is that right?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's it cannot be broadcast on the media.
All of it? I've never seen it, so you have to tell me.
The entire, this is a short clip of it. None of it can be.
So I just want to point out that this testimony happened on the first day of trial. And the prosecution's request to admit what he's about to admit into evidence caused Shannon's first dramatic outburst. It caused her to start sobbing in court, for Jennifer to be sobbing in court, for the attorneys to get in fights about the crying in the courtroom, and the jury seeing that and all of that. And it was rather dramatic. To answer your question about what happens if there's a hung jury, you know, I'm not a DA or a lawyer or whatever, but my understanding is that then the prosecution has the opportunity potentially to decide to try the case again with different facts. But you know, or maybe what they would do is also try James and see if he's found guilty, and maybe they'd be satisfied with that guilty verdict, and not hers, because he is the one who actually took Ethan to the gun store to buy the gun, right? And supposedly, according to Jennifer, was responsible for the gun safety and things like that. So, you know, I don't know. A lawyer would be better equipped to answer that question, you know, Emily D. Baker or something. But that's what I believe could happen.
You have, okay, so you guys are not video. Okay.
She'd probably be released from jail, One Red Rose. Yeah. There'd be no reason to keep her.
Should we stop the live stream? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I do want to give notice to the jury as well. There will be an image of a victim on this video.
So they're currently watching this video without the audio. The video in and of itself is distressing enough, and you start seeing people getting very emotional. It's just,
tell us when we see you.
I am approaching right in the yellow jacket there, the gold jacket.
For the record, this is at 12:51 p.m. on November the 30th.
yeah, I know. That's Google's great AI in the closed
No
caption.
one's come by at this point.
No. forgot about, that's when he came by. He said, get the hell out of here. I don't know if you could see him running through there.
The first student?
You see more students running. These kids are kind of laughing, and then you'll see me stopping. There we go. There's my walkie.
You're walking down the
And
middle
I'm
hallway there?
walking towards the direction that the kids told me. They cleared the hallways very, very, very fast.
Quickly, just want to recognize, notice how you say the closed caption doesn't match what's being said. That's the same technology tool that is being used to determine what we should watch, what we shouldn't watch, whether a creator is being too extreme or not. And it's not a very it's clearly not up to the human intelligence level, but that's what they're using to make decisions for us. It's very concerning. Are there any lesser charges or just 4 counts of? I think there are some lesser charges that, of course, I'm sorry, I don't have them right at the top of my head right now. But that the jury has to consider.
That's you at the top of the screen?
Yes, I didn't realize that we passed there. This is where the teacher came out. I'm checking another classroom to make sure they were okay. And then continuing on.
You hear the sniffling in the background? That is Jennifer and her lawyer.
This is where I'm saying, that's when I stepped aside, that's when I said I had eyes on the shooter, because he flinched a little bit, or at least my perception that he did. This is where I moved the garbage can. That's Tate. When I'm talking on the walkie, I try to step back a little bit because I think it threw Ethan off a little. And so there he is coming up to me. And I start talking to him here. And I'm letting them know that I have a victim and I have a shooter. I'm asking them questions. And I turned my back on him and I came back to Tate because I didn't know it was Tate then. And then that's what right there is when I know it's Tate.
This is one of these things that you wish you could wake yourself up and say, this was all a horrible nightmare, but it's not. It's real.
This is after the police arrive on scene, we've cut portions of it.
Movement in the courtroom. Not sure what it is. It may be a question. Let's check it out. They must have called them in there for some reason. It may just be a question. Hey, none your business. Okay, now they're showing the door, which means they expect Jennifer to walk through, I believe. The sound is horrible. Sorry.
So you can
Hey, I'm seeing some Twitter accounts that are saying the verdict is in, but I don't always go by what Twitter accounts say. There is a verdict. There is a verdict. This is it, folks. Brace yourselves. You're welcome, Earthling and Extra. So I just want to say, I'm not married to any verdict. I agree, whatever happens, happens. Just let this be a lesson. Let it be a lesson. Man, and just on time, it just starts pouring down buckets of rain here. Pouring down buckets of rain. Ah, what is that? Bars? What are we talking about? Okay. Woo. I completely understand why you are married to the verdict, Tia. I completely understand. Hello, Sammy Smith. Man, imagine being those. Okay, Tia, take care. You're married to the Skittles, Chopper. Imagine how it feels for everybody in there, not just the lawyers and the judge and the jury, but also the parents and the other victims, and also Jennifer and how it feels for her. Yeah, that rain moved down to the south. Yeah, I would need an adult diaper on at this point if I were her. I just got to say, you know, we ran a poll here of whether we think the verdict is going to come in today. And the poll was overwhelmingly for yes. And so you all are very smart. I know, right, Caroline? I love being here with you all, Pixie Dot. You know, I'm torn on whether this jury is going to come back with guilty, because they really did deliberate for, you know, a number of hours. And I'm sure they were really, really torn. And they can't just go willy-nilly and say, wow, this is a bad parent, let's convict her. You can't just do that, you know? They're probably just, you know, gathering up their belongings, because they're going to have to leave right after this. They're going to have to avoid all kinds of camera crews trying to get in their faces. They're going to have to emotionally and physically prepare for the end of this case. I'm sure they're glad it's over. Yeah, they really thought about it. And I'm thank God they thought about it. Thank God they didn't just go in and come out, you know, and convict or not convict. That's the way it's supposed to work, right? Just waiting for the jury, waiting for everybody to come in. He's still in jail, Caroline, awaiting trial. Darrell Brooks is an anomaly in almost every sense of the spectrum of human behavior. I mean, man. Sheesh. I mean, I am sincerely glad that the jury seems to have taken this really, really seriously. And I just want you all to know, if you have strong feelings either way, you know, about the verdict, you are entitled to your feelings and you're entitled to your opinion. Just be respectful to other people. That's all I ask in my chat, and, you know, in general. Just in general. Just because someone doesn't share the same opinion about the verdict, how the verdict should be, doesn't mean that they're a terrible person or they're wrong. They just have a different perspective. Caroline, he was James and Jennifer's only child, but James had other children from a prior marriage. That's right. We still have Adam Montgomery. Oh, man. I don't think that jurors should find defendants guilty as an example, unless the facts, the jurors should find defendants guilty based on the law, right? And it sounds to me like that's what they've really done their best to do here. Let me see if there's any more activity on the platform formerly known as Twitter about this as we continue to wait. There are memes going on about, you know, nervousness and blowing in babs and watching eating popcorn. Okay. Here's the prosecution. And there's Shannon. She's looking quite nervous. I don't blame her. She looks very tense. And, you know, actually, I think I need to change my banner. I don't think we're waiting for the jury at this point. I think we might be waiting for Jennifer because I think they already brought the jury in. Oh, so they set the retrial for the treehouse murder. That's interesting. I think they're focusing on the door because they're waiting for Jennifer to be brought in. Yeah, hopefully she's brushing her hair this time. This is the guard's like, oh man, I'm on camera. I better straighten my hair up. See, he at least tries to, hello, Coco. At least he tries to brush his hair, even though he doesn't have nearly as much of it as Jennifer. I mean, can we at least convict Jennifer of not brushing her hair? Okay, so she just said, are we good to bring your client in? And she says yes, and so they're about to bring her in. Yeah. My palm, I'm not going to lie, y'all, my palms are a little sweaty. And it's not that I'm nervous for one verdict or another. It's just that I'm nervous for the whole situation and what it means for the parents. You know that things are about to happen when things were a little louder and now they're getting a little quieter. Mom spaghetti, yep. I know where that's from. This is in Detroit. 8 Mile, baby. Because Georgina, the verdict is in and we're waiting for them to read the verdict. They have not said the verdict yet. We're watching the live feed from where the verdict will be read. Okay. So the verdict is in, but we don't know what it is yet. We are waiting for Jennifer Crumbley to be brought in to the court for the jury, for the verdict to be read. In the meantime, we get to look at this lovely guard standing at the door who did straighten his hair a little bit when he realized he was on camera. She might be puking for all we know. I wouldn't put it past myself to be puking at this moment in time if I were her. This is nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking for everybody. It's a very emotional situation. It's unprecedented. It could be a precedent case. It may not be. It could be that James's case is precedent setting and maybe not. Yeah, right. The toy or sitting on the toilet. Okay, I think we have a door opening. Here she comes. I don't think she found that brush. I'm sorry, but she didn't. I don't know, Nunya. I don't know for sure. Shannon is trying to tell her, just be calm, just sit, just listen, regardless of the verdict. Just be calm. Don't make a, big proclamation. Heart beating, I'm sure. Nervous. Yep. Dry lips. All right, it's the quiet before the storm now. Yeah, that's what jail could do to you, Nunya. You think she thinks guilty? What do you guys think she thinks? What do you guys she's probably worried that it's going to be guilty because, that's what you worry about in these situations. Yeah, I think she looks like she thinks she's going to be declared guilty, but yeah, I mean, Coco, there's a difference between having sympathy for how she's feeling and just recognizing how she's feeling. I don't have a huge amount of sympathy for her either, considering what the evidence that's been submitted. Oh, Shannon. Oh, you think Shannon thinks guilty too? I feel a lot for the jury. I feel more for the jury than for Jennifer. The jury, didn't know, when they witnessed all this happening in their community, that they would be selected as jury members to make this unprecedented, possibly, decision. And that's a heavy burden. Perhaps dumplings, perhaps. But my understanding is you can have sex in jail. That's my understanding. I mean, in fact, I understand it's quite prolific in jail. No matter whether a defendant tells the truth or lies, if found guilty, she will be punished. Not much choice. As we wait.
All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Shirley Matthews presiding. Your Honor, calling People versus Jennifer Crumbley, case number 22279-990 FH.
Good afternoon, Karen McDonald on behalf of the people.
Thank you, Marquise, on behalf of the people.
Good afternoon, I'm Shannon Smith on behalf of Jennifer Crumbley, who sits to my left.
All right, are you ready for the jury?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to ask when the jury reads their verdict. After that, I want everyone to remain seated.
Judge, do you want us to sit up? Stacy.
It's up to you. It's up to you. I really want the audience to stay seated after the verdict's read and after that. And after that. You can stay.
Okay, so I guess they're bringing in the jury last. They brought everyone else in, but they're bringing in the jury last, and that's what we're waiting for. And there's conversation about sitting or standing before and after the verdict. Jury's coming in. Oh, look at that face. She looks... they're looking at the faces of the jury as they come in, trying to get a read on it. She looks tired. I don't blame her for being tired.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been informed that you got a verdict, is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you the correct person?
I am.
Could you please read your verdict?
Individually?
Sure.
Okay. On count 1 of involuntary manslaughter as to Madison Baldwin, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter. On count 2 of involuntary manslaughter in regards to Tate Muir, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter. On count 3 as to involuntary manslaughter regarding Hannah St. Juliana, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter. And of involuntary manslaughter against Justin Schilling, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
Thank you, Woman. You can be seated. And I'm going to close all the jury.
Juror in seat number 1, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 2, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 3, was that and is that your verdict? Yes. Juror in seat number 5, was that and is that your verdict? Yes. Juror in seat number 6, was that and is that your verdict? Yes. Juror in seat number 7, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 8, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 11, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 12, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 13, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 14, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 16, was that and is that your verdict? Yes.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We all know that this is one of the hardest things you've ever done.
Wow.
I'm going to ask you to return to the jury room. The 2 remaining alternates are also going to join you, and I'll be with you in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
Wow. 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 Wow.
All right, you may be seated.
Let's just see if what else is said here.
Considering April 9th at 9 o'clock in the morning for sentencing effect.
That should be fine, Judge. Thank you.
April 9th at 9 o'clock is fine, thank you.
April 9th, 9 o'clock, sentencing.
While the defendant is taken out of court. Okay?
All rise.
That's right, Nunya.
You may be seated.
Okay, Jennifer, now you know. Now you know the verdict. She's probably holding it together until she gets to a quiet place. I'm just being nosy and seeing what the interaction is. Let's look at Shannon. What's Shannon doing? Shannon's upset, understandably. And I have to give it to the parents for not bursting out in court. With the Elisa Stefanko sentencing, there was the opposing family bursted out, and the judge put a stop to that immediately. Here's all the families. And there's defense counsel. She's probably just trying not to be seen right now because she's so upset. Not that I blame her, just saying. And it is tradition for, the court staff to go around and, all right, let's take this off now. That's the verdict, folks. she's been found guilty, and we now have precedent. And I just want to implore anybody who's angry about this verdict. This was not simply about guns. It was about a kid with guns who clearly had mental distress, and the parents who didn't pay attention to that and what it leads to. I'm going to look on Twitter right now and see if there's any interesting like expert reaction. It'll probably take a while for a lot of that stuff to come in. So whenever I voted in polls, I voted guilty because I thought maybe that's what the jury would come back with, and that's what happened. So April 9th at 9 a.m. is the sentencing. I do plan to cover that. April 9th. Yes, they said April 9th. And yeah, that's a good point, Chopper. You have to realize that that James Crumbley is probably crapping his pants right now. He is probably crapping his pants. Because if she was found guilty and he was supposedly the one who brought Ethan to the gun store. He was supposedly in charge of the gun handling. But maybe there are other facts that go on his side, exculpatory. So this is, if nothing else, it will be a deterrent, hopefully, for parents and how they handle guns in their house, and especially watching out for the signs of a child that might be in distress when they have a gun in the house. Before I head out, I'm just going to share my links one more time. I really appreciate you all being here and being respectful. You were all very respectful. We can disagree on how things should go, but that's exactly what our democracy is about, is being able to respect other people's opinions without, going to war, basically. And learning through that kind of open dialogue without jumping down each other's throats. I was on a panel last night and I was like, we can be honest with each other without being assholes to each other, right? And I think my chat here on Disorder in the Court proves that. We can state our opinion without being assholes to each other. And you guys have shown that time after time after time, whether there's 700 in chat or, 50 in chat. So that was emotional and that was harrowing. And I just want to, I don't have the names in front of me of the victims in this case. But I'm thinking of them and their families right now. So thank you for being here. I'm okay. I just get emotional when I think of these things. I'm okay. I have my kids. They don't. That's what bothers me. So thank you for being here. And I will see you all soon. Okay? Bye.